And we're off and rolling on a Modelo Monday. So much to react to. Great to have you with us here on this Thanksgiving week. I am Ari Tepkin along with James Wessling. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Great to have you with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12. We do normally on Mondays tons of reaction, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of the college football season here with the final week of the regular season next week in week 14. James, what a crazy weekend it was, both on the hardwood, on the soccer fields, on the football fields. So much to react to around the Big 12.
Man, it was wild. Probably collectively, the Big 12, I think, had the most entertaining Saturday across the college football landscape. Still trying to figure out who those were wearing the K-State white and purple uniforms up at Reese Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, because K-State battled for 4 quarters, but just so many other great games in the conference. And my calves are still very sore from walking the hills of Salt Lake City for the BYU-Wisconsin game on Friday. BYU is, I don't think there's a more talented team in the Big 12. Like, they may not win the Big 12, but they won't lose games for lack of talent. That was my main takeaway from that game. So sore calves, sore brain, ready to dial in.
And lots of turkey and stuffing in basketball this week, which starts today in Vegas. Your game on Friday, BYU and Wisconsin, was probably the biggest win for the Big 12 on Friday and maybe of the weekend. Also, just a little inside baseball here. James sent Taman and I a text on Sunday that started off with, "Hey, gang." I mean, that's it. That's the tweet. James started off a text with Taman and myself with, "Hey, gang."
So what's the problem with Hey Gang? Hey Gang is like the setup to, I think I have some bad news I'm about to share, so I'm going to softball this with Hey Gang.
Hey, gang. So it turns out that thing on my leg is actually...
Next time I'm going to lead with, "Hey, my 2 best friends in the whole wide world. Here's the deal."
Hey, gang makes you sound like Mr. Belding from Saved by the Bell. Hey, gang. Just wanna. Never have I referred to any group of people as a gang. Just
yeah. I think that will be on the list now that is very long of things I should never say again. Which between Friday and now has quadrupled in size. So we'll lead with "Hey Gang" at the top with the strike-through font.
That's James Wessling. I'm Ari Tepkin. All right, we're off and rolling on a Monday here, a Modelo Monday. Cheers to you, because you've got basketball all day today if you want to watch it from Vegas, from everywhere else. All these tournaments in Maui and Vegas and everywhere else. Going to be a great day of hoops. But, of course, what we do each and every Monday is react to the college football weekend that was. Week 13 behind us, and the Big 12 championship picture is in crystal clear view now right ahead. So let's see how clear Week 14 ends up being. But let's first react to Week 13. We put a minute on the clock. Will Connerly is producing today's show, so he'll call out these games. We'll react, put a minute on each of these games, and we'll react to each of them within a minute. All right, what do we have, Will?
All right, we've got Oklahoma State at UCF. Minute on the clock.
All right, UCF was shut out in the first half. Oklahoma State up 14-0, and sort of like we've seen from them over the course of this season, James, they wilted down the stretch. Taven Jackson hit Dylan Wade for 83 yards for a touchdown on the first play of the second half, and that got UCF off and rolling. They end up winning 17-14, but UCF completely flipped this game in the second half after Oklahoma State sort of dominated the first half.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the word wiltered, and they wiltered indeed. This was a game that, man, like you said, Oklahoma State looked really good in the first half. 77-yard, 12-play drive, jump out to that 2-touchdown lead, and then the 83-yard momentum shift. UCF had a long punt return by Antoine Jackson that set them up in midfield. They converted that drive into a touchdown. And UCF's defense, I thought, in the second half was the real story. They held Oklahoma State to 27 yards in the second half. So a very sleepy first half for the Knights, but they're one win away from bowl eligibility on their defense in the final 2 quarters.
I just Googled wilted, and it said, do you mean wilted? By the way, just real quickly on this game, Oklahoma State had won 95 of its previous 97 when allowing less than 20 points. They had been 83-13 when winning the turnover battle since 08, which they did. 52-9 when leading at half in recent years, and the nation's leader in one-score games since 2015. How about that?
And I think that stat is carried by the fact that their defense hasn't held many teams under 20 points in the last 2 years. So the defense played maybe their best game in 2 or 3 seasons, but the offense, man, it is what it is.
All right, another minute on the clock. Kansas at Iowa State. This was
a full team effort win for Iowa State, including offensively. Rocco Becht was decisive. Carson Hansen with 120 yards and a touchdown. Abu Sama was also fantastic. Iowa State, I thought the story in this game was the big moments that Iowa State won. 3rd down, 4th down, Iowa State converted in a big way. Situational execution was just huge. 7 of 11 on early 3rd downs and 3 of 3 on early 4th down tries. Kansas was down 17-0 at halftime. They put together 2 scoring drives in the second half, but 14 points was as close as they would get. Really never able to overcome that 17-point deficit in the first half here.
Yeah, I had to bust out the what an idiot gift this weekend because I took Kansas to show up on the road and beat Iowa State. And Iowa State's opening drive I thought was a tone setter, 12 plays, 75 yards. They've got an early lead. And then KU gets on the board in the second half, but you hit it, man. Multiple plays for Iowa State. They had a 4th and 2 in the red zone. Rocco Becht hit Brett Eskildson for a touchdown. Marcus Neal had a big interception that was kind of the dagger in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
Iowa State with those new white helmets racked up 462 yards of total offense, 221 on the ground. KU's defense was leaky, and man, they didn't show up at all.
And we'll get into this a little bit further on. We'll get into this further later on, but Kansas heads into the final week once again at 5-6, needing 1 win to get to bowl eligibility for the 2nd straight year. Only this year feels a lot different than last year.
Arizona State at Colorado. Minute on the clock.
Colorado turned 4 Arizona State turnovers into just 3 points. Arizona State with 580 total yards. Malik Brown with 255 rushing. Some absurd rushing performances this weekend, which we'll get into, but certainly Malik Brown had one of them. Colorado came up empty on 13 of 16 drives. Not a great offensive performance by any stretch of the imagination for Colorado in Julian Lewis's first start. A major turning point was Deion's decision. This was a close game. Deion's decision to give Ronald Coleman his first ever carry with Welch and Hayden playing well, and he fumbled, gave the ball back to Colorado, which was immediately followed by an 80-yard touchdown run by Malik Brown, made it 28-17 early in the 4th quarter. That really put this game out of reach.
Yeah, that was the biggest turning point in the game. To your point, it was 28-17 Arizona State after the touchdown. So, I mean, this is a 1-score game in the second half. And then Arizona State's defense, 3 fumbles, an interception. Malik Brown, over 11 yards per carry, 255 yards rushing that you noted. That was the 3rd most in Arizona State history. Arizona State had almost 600 yards of total offense, 580, 355 on the ground. They also sacked Julian Lewis 4 times. I thought he was okay. I thought he looked like a freshman for most of the game, did some good things, but also had some costly errors.
Baylor at Arizona.
Well, Connor Hawkins kicked a 40-yard field goal for Baylor to put them up 17-14 at half. Arizona would put the screws on in the second half. This thing went from 17-14 to a final score of 41-17. Arizona scored 20 points in just over 4 minutes in the 4th quarter to turn a 17-14 deficit into a rout. It was all bear down in the second half for Risano and the Wildcats D in the 4th quarter. Arizona rushed for 172 yards on 35 carries and repeatedly hit chunk plays on the ground, especially in the second half here, James. This was a dominant defensive effort for Arizona, and their running game dominated.
Yeah, there was a stretch in this game early in the 4th quarter in which Arizona scored 20 points unanswered in just over 4 minutes. Fumble recovery, quick touchdown, pick six. Baylor's offense looked really good in the first half, and then Arizona made some really nice halftime adjustments to totally flip this game. They outscored Baylor 27-0 in the second half. I think that says a lot about the trajectory of the two programs and the two coaching staffs. Major win for Brent Brennan and his staff dialed up a beauty in the second half. Like the total offense, this is another game where the total offense is real similar. Arizona 355, Baylor 343, just like Baylor and Utah 2 weeks ago, but the final score very different, 41-17. Baylor turned it over at critical times. That program is at a real crossroads, I would say, and we'll talk more about the future of Baylor football.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge talking point coming out of this week after the comments from the Chancellor, Linda Livingstone.
TCU at Houston.
Well, Houston's defense did enough to win, but the offense and kicking game coughed it up. TCU turned it over 4 times, but TCU gets its first win versus a ranked opponent since Michigan in the 2022 Fiesta Bowl. This came down to 2 missed field goals by Ethan Sanchez and then Jordan Dwyer's 53-yard punt return in the fourth quarter as the turning point. The return flipped the field, set up Nate McCashlin's go-ahead 29-yard field goal, and that became the winning play and the difference in this 17-14 TCU win.
Ari, I thought it was a bold statement that you made on Friday that this was the most disrespectful line in the history of college football. So I'm glad you brought that to the table because I don't know who would ever say anything like that.
Yeah.
Turns out.
Who did say that?
Turns out.
Doesn't
man,
sound like
TCU,
something I would say, does it? Is it?
No, I don't. I don't think so. TCU had a 14-0 lead. Connor Wegman was held below 200 yards passing. Houston's Will James had 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. Like, he was a monster, but I didn't think TCU could run the ball, and Jeremy Payne had his first ever 100-yard game. He was the 3rd running back on their depth chart. Their top 2 backs were out, and he came up in a big way.
Kansas State at Utah.
Well. This game was absolutely bananas. This game went from the Joe Jackson game to the Devin Dampier game. Joe Jackson in the first half had 9 carries for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the first half, he had 15 for 56 and a touchdown in the second half, and 24 of those 56 came on his 3rd touchdown run. Devin Dampier, when the moment was at its biggest, shined the brightest. 259 passing yards, 94 rushing yards, and 4 total touchdowns, orchestrating 2 touchdown drives late in this game. Utah went down 12 in the fourth quarter, 16 unanswered points in the final 7 minutes, and a 59-yard Devin Dampier scramble plus 1-yard touchdown run, 56 seconds left to win it.
Man, this game was wild. Now, K-State fans call losses like this a KITN, which is kick in the nuts. That's it was for K-State.
Yep.
Came into Salt Lake City, a historic rushing attack. They held leads of 12 or more in the fourth quarter. Looked like they were in control most of the game. The ingredients were there, like Jackson and his rushing night. Avery Johnson was in rhythm, and then the wheels fell off. And I thought that tipped pass on the 2-point conversion that Utah ran back to the house was a huge momentum swing. And then Devin Dampier's 59-yard burst on 4th and 1 on a zone read up the gut. That was it. K-State couldn't get a stop down the stretch, and they suffered a heartbreaking loss.
Then the big one, BYU at Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'd argue the biggest one of this weekend was Kansas State-Utah in terms of the outcome and how the game went and implications and ramifications. But BYU ran the ball 27 times versus just 7 passes in the second half. LJ Martin, 222 yards rushing. So, I mean, just 3 otherworldly rushing performances this weekend in the Big 12, including LJ Martin. The big stat, Cincinnati was inside BYU's 34 times, 0 points, 3 missed field goals, all under 50, plus a fourth quarter fumble at the 22. BYU was +2 in the turnover ratio with a wall interception and a late fumble recovery. Bear Bachmeier was not at his best. He was hit a lot, but impressive win here for BYU, full team effort.
Yeah, Cincinnati had a couple of plays that kind of kept them in this game. I felt like they had a 57-yard punt return that set up a score early on. And then in the fourth quarter, they were kind of threatening to close the gap. But L.J. Martin was a beast. 222 yards rushing. He had a 33-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter that pushed BYU's lead to 2 scores. That was a game-changing play. You felt like it was over at that point. BYU outgained Cincinnati 392 to 387, but won by 12 on the scoreboard. Like, both teams were held below 400 yards. I thought this game would maybe be a little bit more high scoring, but BYU's kind of bend but don't break defense, I also thought was the difference in this game. They let a lot of things go underneath, but they didn't give up any big plays, and just a really nice, I wouldn't say, it certainly wasn't a trap game on paper, but just the fact that you have to have this one to put yourself in a position to play for a Big 12 championship. To go in there on the road and get this win was really impressive by the Cougs.
Yeah, agreed. The most impressive win over the weekend, James, in your opinion, BYU or Utah?
Well, most impressive was BYU. I think going on the road and beating a Cincinnati team that just 2 weeks ago was a team that could control their own destiny to make the Big 12 championship game. I thought the way BYU set the tone early, they got on the board first with Bachmeier's 6-yard touchdown. They let Sorsby hit all the underneath throws. Like, he throws for 300, but his yards per attempt weren't very good. It was bend but don't break. And then LJ Martin, I think he's the most underrated running back maybe in the country. Like, nobody talks about this guy. They talk about BYU and just the total team effort, collectiveness, their defense, their big turnover margin. But LJ Martin is a man among boys, and I thought it was clear in this game. We knew that Cincinnati defense had some holes in stopping the run, and he exploited them for 222 yards.
Yeah, the K-State-Utah game, though, was absolutely bananas. It was wild. It was insane. Kansas State rushed for 472 yards. That is a school record and the second most by an FBS team this season in a losing effort. And, James, everything started to go wrong for K-State when they went up 47-35. They were going for 2 with under 7 to play. Tao Johnson then intercepts a pass in the 2-point conversion, then returns it to go down 47-37. K-State fans, James, were pretty upset with officiating down the stretch of this game, including the picked up flag of the pass interference on that penalty, on that call. Even though it might have been, you still, by the way, got to stop a guy from going 100 yards with the football to score the 2 points. I don't know if you know that. You could have tackled him. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, but anytime I hear fans complain about officiating, certainly calls were missed. I'm not going to disagree with that. But, I continually bang this drum. You have to take it out of the hands of the officials. You have to make the plays. If you tackle a dude from not going 100 yards, it doesn't matter if there was interference there. I know there was another penalty or another penalty later that was called illegal substitution, which would have been offsides anyways. I don't know. How did you feel about the officiating as a whole? K-State fans were very upset about officiating.
Yeah, I'm never one to bag on the officials. The officials didn't decide this game. I mean, to your point on the 2-point conversion, so they throw the flag, and K-State almost quit on the play. Like, there's a point where I don't remember who had the interception, but he's racing down the sideline, and he kind of stops. Like, he decelerates, and it's almost like K-State thought the play was over, and they just stopped. And you have to have the mental fortitude in that moment to know that you've got to tackle a guy. It doesn't matter if there's flags on the field. There can be 100 flags on the field. You still have to go make that tackle. And they didn't do it. And then also, Utah outscored K-State 16-0 in the final 7 minutes. Okay, K-State, down the stretch, Utah was the more well-conditioned mentally and physically football team. K-State couldn't pick up a first down when they had a chance to seal it. And then they couldn't get a stop.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a stop on 4th and 1. You have 4th and 1, and Devin Dampier rips off a 57-yard run. The officials had nothing to do with that. And then Avery Johnson, K-State gets the ball back with a minute to go, and the way this game had been dominated on both sides offensively, I thought K-State had a chance to march down the field and make it interesting. And Avery Johnson throws an interception on the second play of the series. So, there were a lot of things that K-State did to themselves that had nothing to do with the officials. I don't think the game was dictated by the officials in any way, and I'm glad that Chris Kleiman didn't push that angle in his post game.
Yeah, and again, to reiterate your point, Were there calls missed? Probably. There's calls missed every game.
Every game.
But like at the end of the day, you have to get stops, and they didn't even force a field goal. So even though Utah was just down 10, even if they had not gotten it, I mean, look at the math there. Like they still would have gotten multiple touchdowns in that situation. Get some stops. Don't get you didn't get stopped at fourth down. They could not get off the field defensively. So I mean, blame officials. Blame your defense. You have to take it out of the officials' hands. You can't blame officials for losing games because you have to make the plays after those calls that dictate the outcome of these games.
Right. And like K-State, so after Dampier's big run, his 57-yarder, it's I think second and goal from inside the 5, and I thought this play was really indicative of the entire game and what separates these two teams. So Devin Dampier runs this zone read, and he gets hit at the 2-yard line by Desmond Purnell, the K-State linebacker who we have raved about on this show.
Yep.
And he just flat out bulldozed him into the end zone. Like Devin Dampier wanted it more on that play. That was Utah's physicality. And give Utah credit, man. Like they never panicked. They were down most of the game in this wild shootout, and they made the plays when it mattered most. Like that's what separates a team that's on the edge of a college football playoff berth and a team that's fighting to make a bowl. Is they had the mental fortitude to get the win, and K-State wilted down the stretch.
Did you mean wilted?
No, I meant wilted.
Got it. Thank you. James Westling, Ari Temkin, wiltering away here. Big 12 radio, Big 12 today. We're off and rolling here on a Modelo Monday. A lot to get to, including the big storylines to come out of this weekend, including Utah surviving. How will they be viewed now in the eyes of the CFP? Plus, Chris Kleiman breaks down postgame. Huge win for Matt Campbell and his crew. And how about Baylor with the news surrounding Dave Aranda heading into the weekend? We recap all of that on the way next with James Westling on social at James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin on social at Ari Sports. This is Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. So much to react to from the Week 13 slate in the Big 12. A short week. There are 2 Friday games on Black Friday this week in the Big 12. And then the majority of Week 14 Saturday games are at 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern. This is Big 12 Today. With James Wesley, I am Ari Temkin, off and rolling on a Monday. This is a Modelo Monday, giving you full reaction to the big stories from the Week 13 slate in the Big 12. James is in Kansas. I'm Ari Temkin in our Big 12 studios. And, I mean, so many big stories to come out of the weekend. Let's start with the Kansas State-Utah game. Just an unbelievable high-scoring affair that looked like K-State was going to end up winning, and Utah absolutely takes it from them in what could very well be the final game for Kyle Whittingham to coach at Rice-Eccles Stadium. But really, the biggest talk following this game was the emotion of Chris Kleiman following this loss in a moment that he had to be consoled by Gene Taylor, the athletic director at K-State. Here was a very emotional Chris Kleiman following this loss for K-State.
Heartbroken for the kids and for the loss. But it's one of the greatest efforts I've been a part of. One of the greatest efforts I've been a part of as a coach. And it's hard to say this because we lost the game. We're down so many players. And I know a lot of people thought we'd come over here and lay down. And that maybe the kids had cashed it in because I've heard it enough. I've heard I've cashed it in. I've heard the players have cashed it in. We need to get new leadership here. We need to get new players, new coaches. I'm tired of it. I gotta be honest with you, I'm tired of it. I've given my friggin' ass life for this place for 7 years. I've given everything for 7 years. And I think I deserve a little bit of respect. Because I'm frustrated, like everybody else is. But I love those kids. And I'll go friggin' battle with those kids any day. That's a top 10 team in the country, one of the best offenses in the country, and one of the best defenses in the country that we rushed for 472 yards on. Because we told the guys we were going to commit to running the football. And we told the guys that buy into it, believe in it. We are running the football against these guys because nobody's tried it like we're going to try it. And the kids bought into it. Kids don't buy into it if they've given in. Kids don't buy into it if they're half foot out the door. Our kids bought into it. And we stuffed it down their throat the entire game running the football. And we lost. And I'm crushed because of that. But I'm going to stand up here with friggin' pride and say we battled our ass off against a really good team, and I'm crushed we lost the football game.
All right, James, as a K-State alum, how does this make you feel?
So the first thing I would say is this is very foreign to Chris Kleiman, losing football games, because he hasn't had a ton of it. Like at North Dakota State, his record was like 140-12 when he got hired by Kansas State. Even his first couple of years at K-State, where the expectations were much lower, he was always kind of exceeding those. So this is new territory for him in terms of falling short of preseason expectations, number one. That clip tells me that is a coach that cares deeply about his kids, which is a Kansas State supporter I very much am on board with. Where I kind of scratch my head is, I love the raw emotion, the transparency, but let me ask you this. Does that come off as, like, I want to run through a wall for that guy versus, man, I feel sorry for that guy? Like, it pulls at your heartstrings like, God, that's tough. I feel bad for Chris Kleiman. I feel bad for those K-State kids that battled their tail off. But it doesn't give me that raw, like, I want to run through a brick wall. I'm going to lay down my life for that program and that guy, that type of post-game response. That was my initial thought.
Yeah, I'd say that's a great observation. I would agree. I mean, I think when you put it like that, it definitely is borders on feeling bad for the guy over, I think what you just alluded to. That's a great point. It definitely makes you feel bad for him.
And K-State, they showed a lot of toughness in this game. They had 472 yards on the ground. That set a K-State single-game record. Joe Jackson alone set a new K-State single-game record, 293 yards. He broke Darren Sproles' mark from way back in 2004. K-State outgained Utah. Like, there's a lot of positives, and I think that kind of summarizes K-State's story, right? Like, when we watch K-State, it's like, where's that emotional leader from he's going to go Cam Scattaboo on everybody and run through a brick wall to lead his football team to victory. And in the fourth quarter, it was Utah making those type of plays. Like, the thing about this K-State team that I think has been lacking this season is that physical and mental toughness. Even on that last drive, K-State's got the ball with a minute to go, and 2 plays in, they throw an interception. Like, there's just something that hasn't been there for K-State all season long, dating back to the Army game, the North Dakota game, Week 0 against Iowa State, Texas Tech. They're in the game, then they falter down the stretch. And this was another example of that, and I think that's what's been frustrating to K-State Nation.
Well, and to your point, like, K-State scores a touchdown, and to go up 10 points, really it was to go up 47-35, and then the 2-point conversion, you could argue that they probably should have just gone for the extra point, but I digress. But then you look at the drive chart, Utah, touchdown, K-State, 3 plays, punt, Utah, touchdown, K-State, 2 plays, interception. So, I mean, they take a big lead and are in complete control in this game, and then you look at the last 4 drives of this game, completely flipped. In the biggest moments of the game, K-State's offense and defense were not ready for it. I mean, it's pretty blatant and obvious there. If you want to complain, if you're a Kansas State fan, about officiating, like, I get it. There were some missed calls, but there's missed calls in every game. They had 5 plays after 2 touchdown drives by Utah. Utah ran 19 plays in their final 2 drives. K-State ran 5. So their offense wasn't ready. When they needed plays, Avery Johnson was nowhere to be found, and their defense was nowhere to be found. Utah was the team that was ready to win in the biggest moments, and K-State was not.
And I think that's the difference in these 2 teams in terms of stylistically, the toughness, the physicality, also at the quarterback position. You've got a guy that, in Devin Dampier, that has taken this offense and this team, he's taken it by the horns, and like, he is leading this team. And on the flip side, it's almost like K-State is trying to hype up Avery Johnson and put him in a position to be successful. And K-State has had, like, this isn't the first time this has happened. Think back to the Baylor game. K-State's got a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. They throw a pick 6. They end up losing the game on a last-second field goal. At Arizona, we saw an 8-minute stretch in the third quarter where Kansas State looked like a team that could win the Big 12. But then outside of that, it flips again in the fourth quarter, and a veteran quarterback in Noah Fafita, and Arizona just pounds K-State in the trenches. Same thing for the Army game. K-State needs a stop down the stretch. The big play was a kick return touchdown, but defensively they couldn't get off the field. It's just been one thing or another that's led to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses now. 5 losses for Kansas State by 1 score or less. I mean, they've lost every close game.
What would you say, aside from Utah, K-State, was the other big story? BYU over Cincinnati?
Yeah, I would say in terms of team efforts, BYU over Cincinnati, the way they won that game on the road, but also like the individual. It was the weekend of the running back.
Yeah,
we had 3 running backs go over 200. Joe Jackson sets a K-State record. L.J. Martin goes for 222. Raleek Brown has the 3rd best day on the ground in Arizona State history. He goes over 200. So in a year of the quarterback, it was the Saturday of the running back. And even the quarterback run game, Bear Bachmeier wasn't as fantastic as he had been, but Devin Dampier put that team on his back. I mean, his 4th down and 1 conversion where that's all him. That is a quarterback read. They bring the receiver across the line of scrimmage on a jet sweep. He fakes to him. He sees a crease, and he's gone for 57 yards to set up the Utah touchdown. So I would say the rushing numbers, and then BYU's statement win. Like, that was a statement win for the Cougars. This is a league and a college football playoff committee that looks at style points, and stylistically, huge win for BYU over the weekend. Not so much for Utah.
Yeah, here's BYU running back L.J. Martin, who had a career day, was leading rusher and receiver for BYU with 222 yards to the ground and 44 yards catching the football. Here's L.J. Martin on his career day.
I mean, I think that's just something I've tried to work on. Coach Har's worked with me on it. Falau, I mean, all those guys that were here before me, they just kind of helped me build that, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it now.
All right, that was L.J. Martin talking about being patient after his career day at 222 yards. One of the other big stories would be, and you mentioned this earlier, the trajectory of both Baylor and Arizona. We're going to preview the Arizona State game this week on Friday. It's got to be the most consequential Territorial Cup in years because it feels like when Arizona's been good, Arizona State was bad, and when Arizona State's been good, Arizona's bad. So this is the first time both teams are coming in, at 8-3. Impressive performances by both of these clubs. But coming out of the Baylor-Arizona game, James, just the trajectory of Arizona with Brent Brennan in year 2 versus Dave Aranda, who got the vote of confidence from the chancellor at Baylor, Linda Livingstone. Here is Bridget Howard on TNT, who is reporting on this game during the game about Dave Aranda and his return to Baylor next season.
Our Bridget Howard is on site, ready to report for the action. Bridget, some big changes with Baylor's leadership. A very interesting week for the Bears.
Yes, Adam. Earlier this week, Baylor Athletic Director Mack Rhodes officially resigned from his role that he had previously held since 2016. And with that, there was a lot of speculation about what the future would look like for head coach Dave Aranda. However, in an email that was sent out yesterday afternoon from Baylor President Linda Livingstone, she announced that Aranda will in fact be returning next season as the Bears head coach. Later on in the email, she stated the decision included several factors, with the priorities being stability during transition, student-athlete experience, and financial stewardship. When the news broke yesterday, we were actually talking with Arizona head coach Brent Brennan, and his response was, I think it's awesome he'll be back. He's done a good job there. He said there's a lot of impact when it's changed like that to a team. Now families in the program don't have to be broken up. Players can feel a bit more stable. Something like that can be incredibly hard on everyone. So despite the uncertainty that Baylor has felt in the last couple of weeks, they now have some sense of stability moving forward. A win today and becoming bowl eligible would certainly make quite the ending to the week for the Bears.
All right, so then that happens on Friday. The game is Saturday, and we just see more of the same from Baylor. And I would imagine that was pretty disconcerting for Baylor fans, who many of them have reached a level, I think, of apathy. There's this fan base fatigue, it feels like, with many of them. Now, we've got a good friend of the program who emails us and lets us know that he's a Baylor alum and he's happy that Aranda's back. And I get that. I'm glad to hear it because I've heard from a lot of Baylor fans that are friends of mine that, this is just such an inconsistent team. Like, they've got tons of talent. You could see it, but they're just so inconsistent. And I think this performance in this game is, highlights that.
Exactly. Like, if the players were all in on Dave Aranda and this staff, I think they would have shown more fight in this game. Like, in the second half, Arizona outscored Baylor 27-0. And, this is one of the most explosive offenses in the country. I didn't see a team that looks super excited to play for their coach and help his tenure. And the three things that she outlined, number one, the stability during transition, okay? Essentially, that tells me we don't want to have to hire an athletic director and a football coach at the same time.
Yeah.
We want to take our time through the process of hiring an athletic director because, as we noted, it's one of the highest paying AD jobs in the country. And then protection of the roster and the recruiting class. That's really the only leg that Aranda has to stand on right now, is he has the best recruiting class, high school commits-wise, that Baylor's ever had. It's a top 25 class. So let's try and keep that in place. But in this transfer portal era, I think that doesn't carry as much weight as it would have 5 years ago.
Great point.
And then the financial piece. Like, they want to avoid this big buyout because they've got to hire this athletic director who's going to cost a boatload of money, and they don't want to have to couple a big buyout on top of that. So those three things do make sense, but I think it only essentially buys him one more year. Like, next year has to be the year.
Yeah, which, again, only plays into the, you're wasting a year here, even if you think you're going to keep some of these recruits you have, and they're probably going to leave anyways. But I digress. Here's what
Right.
Dave Aranda said post-game about getting that vote of confidence from Linda Livingstone.
It means a lot. I think, I want to do well. I want to win. And, I want to be around guys that, players, coaches that want to win. And, I just think to feel like people got your back, that's a good feeling. And it makes you want to have their back, And I just think we have to, for all of that, like what we got to do is win. And, we had an opportunity today, didn't do it. We need to be able to do it Saturday.
All right, so there's Aranda sounding a little bit different than the Chris Kleiman plea that we heard from Kleiman earlier, but certainly happy with the vote of confidence despite his team getting up 17-14 at halftime and then losing 41-17. All right, our weekly awards, so many options for Player of the Week. Where did we go? Plus Coach of the Week, Jersey of the Week, Atmosphere of the Week, and our Big 12 hierarchy after Week 13. It's all coming up next. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is a Modelo Monday, full reaction to the crazy weekend that was in the Big 12. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Radio. This is Big 12 Today. I am Ari Tepkin. He is James Westling. We are presented by Modelo on this Modelo Monday. And just a reminder for our full-time fans, brought to you by Modelo. Full-time fan rules number 8. A bad call against your team is proof the universe is rigged, but also a bad call in your favor, finally some justice. That's a good reminder here on a Modelo Monday, along with James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin on social at James Westling. You can get me. I am at on social at Ari Sports. All right, each week we hand out our weekly awards. We do it before the Big 12 anoints the weekly winners. Player, coach, jersey, and atmosphere. So let's start with the atmosphere of the week. And James, I'll go first here. My atmosphere of the week this week is Rice-Eccles Stadium. Incredible atmosphere. Fans were loud, stayed the entire game. They did boo as they were heading into halftime because they were upset with how the team was performing and what they were doing, giving up all the yardage. But incredible Rice-Eccles Stadium. And quite frankly, if this is the last game for Kyle Whittingham at Rice-Eccles, what a way to go out it was.
I also have Rice-Eccles Stadium because that's a seating capacity of 51,000. It's not one of the biggest stadiums in the Big 12. But I think you can make the case that it's as loud as any other bowl in the country. The altitude, that compact bowl feel, the tight sight lines. Remember, this stadium was used for the 2002 Winter Olympics. Yep. So there's a lot of history there. And you're right, man. Like the crowd, they were fired up. They were all in on that football game. The fourth quarter, that place was, I mean, the cameras were shaking because it was so loud and so rowdy at Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City. Great pick.
Yeah, and here is Kyle Whittingham talking about the environment at Rice-Eccles and the seniors.
If you'd have said we're going to give up nearly 500 yards rushing and win the game, I'd say you're crazy. I mean, that doesn't happen. And so just a great illustration of what determination and guts and never say die attitude can get you. And that just so happy for our seniors to be able to go out with a win, their last opportunity in Rice-Eccles. When I think about our seniors, I get emotional, so I apologize. One of the pivotal plays of the game, the two-point conversion, where instead of them getting the 2 points, we intercept it and get so it's a 4-point reversal, which really made a difference there at the end, obviously, in the strategy. So just so many things that are positive, but not a lot of positives on defense. We understand that, but we got the interception there at the end to seal it. And that last score, it was surreal.
Yeah, surreal. I can't imagine what the moment was like inside the stadium. All right, there's Kyle Whittingham talking about the environment and what could be Kyle Whittingham's final game, potentially, as the head coach of Utah at Rice-Eccles Stadium. All right, jersey of the week. James, who's your jersey of the week?
All right, my jersey of the week comes from Ames, Iowa. Iowa State debuted their Cyclones script font helmets earlier this year and then said, "Hold my beer," because the Cynado is back. The Cyclone logo from the mid-90s to 2007 replaced that block I-State mark on the helmet. It looked sweet. White hats, Cynado logo, which their fans are losing their minds over. All they need now are like the Seneca Wallace jerseys to match. But because of the Cynado, and I just like to say Cynado.
That's a good one.
So that's why that's my pick, Iowa State's new helmets that they rocked against KU on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Picking was slim. I think most teams went with their traditional jerseys this week. But, yeah, I also went with the Cynado helmets, which looked sick for Iowa State, and credit John Haycock for turning around this defense. They lost a ton at their corner position. They went 5-0, lost 4 straight, and figured some stuff out on defense that the last couple of weeks they've looked a lot better and a lot more of what we're used to with John Haycock and the Iowa State defense. So, yeah, I'm with you. Iowa State's jerseys here with the classic cardinal red and the Cynado helmets looked really good out there. Jersey of the week, Iowa State. All right. Coach of the week, James.
Man, I felt like there were actually a lot to choose from this week, but I'm going with Kalani Sitake. He's the man. the fact that BYU's 34-4 in games with late kickoff, like I don't think that's a coincidence. They're 34-4 with night kicks, home or away, since 2019. There's something they're doing on game day, something this coaching staff has implemented on game day, because coaches will say those are the worst kickoff times. Like, you're waiting around all day, you're watching other games, the pressure's mounting based off of what's happening elsewhere in the country. And a lot of times teams will come out flat, and BYU comes out polar opposite. They rushed for 222 yards, eighth most in school history. L.J. Martin did, I should say, under his direction. I'm going with Kalani Sitake. I thought their identity was on full display against Cincy on the road.
Yeah, that's a good call, and I'm glad you and I disagree here on coach, and I'm assuming player of the week because we had jersey and atmosphere is the same. I'm going with Kenny Dillingham for my coach of the week this week. Staying aggressive and being stubborn with the run game. But, I mean, he had a fake punt he called early in this game that was a great call and was a completed pass down the field. Had plenty of fourth down calls that went for it and turned in his favor. And then, again, for doubling down on the running game and staying aggressive with that run game instead of getting spooked by turnovers, he kept at it. And I just thought Dillingham, in many ways, outcoached Deion Sanders in this game. All right, player of the week, James.
So even though it was a losing effort,
Wow,
Joe Jackson, the Kansas State running
back,
he's a dog. All right, he's a dog. He's only a sophomore. I think K-State has found their running back of the future. He's got some DJ Giddens to him, and all he needed were more carries, and he set a K-State single-game rushing record. All the K-State running backs they've had, Daniel Thomas, Darren Sproles, J.J. Smith. Deuce Vaughn, thank you. There have been so many, and Joe Jackson is the guy that set that rushing record. 294 yards. He had big plays. He had 80-yard runs, 40-yard runs, 37-yard runs, but he also did the little things between the tackles. He's a great pass catcher. He's an underrated blocker. He's from Haines City, Florida. He's got that Florida dog in him, if you will. And I thought he was fantastic for K-State.
Oh, I will, James. Thank you. I will.
Oh, you will. Oh, you will. If you will.
I'm surprised, James. You could have gone L.J. Martin. Raleek Brown would have been a good choice here. But, I mean, to me, there was just one choice. Of all of the great running performances this weekend, and there were plenty, Devin Dampier is the answer here. Devin Dampier was the player of the week because nobody was more responsible for leading his team back from a deficit late in the game like Devin Dampier. 259 passing yards, 94 rushing yards, 4 total touchdowns, had the 59-yard scramble plus the plunge from 1 yard out with 56 seconds left to win it. Yeah, incredible performance. And his first game with multiple rushing and passing touchdowns. So 4 total touchdowns, a ridiculous performance for Utah and a winning effort for Devin Dampier, who, once again, I questioned his ability coming into the season to be a legit dual threat, and there were multiple games where he showed up in a big way, both passing and rushing, and this was one of them.
Yeah, so I got a text early in the game from my K-State buddies, and I'm reading this group thread. I didn't chime in, but all the talk was, I thought Devin Dampier was this all-American quarterback, and I thought Devin Dampier could throw the football. Man, he can't throw at all. And I'm like, guys, it's the first quarter. Like, this game has a long way to go. You have seen nothing yet. And then it's just dot, 57-yard run. Devin Dampier, I'm a big fan of his. Like, the way he carries himself post-game, he's so humble, cares about the team. I like the way he leads that Utah program on and off the field.
Yeah, well said. All right, Big 12 today, Big 12 radio. So much to get to as we continue to break down Week 13. We go around college football, plus what happened this weekend and more specifically on Friday in the Big 12 with plenty of hoops action, plus soccer. Some teams have punched their ticket already to the Elite Eight. Others could do so today. We'll get into all that coming up. This is Big 12 Today with James Wesley. I'm Ari Temkin. We are presented by Modelo, and we are on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Radio. Big 12 today. Along with James Westling on social at James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin on social at Ari Sports. So much to get to as we break down a Friday of hoops. How about soccer with the NCAA tournament? Ohio State knocked out Baylor in the Sweet 16. Duke knocked out Kansas. It's BYU, Stanford, and TCU, North Carolina for a spot in the Elite Eight for the Big 12 today. Otherwise, Ohio State, Florida State, Duke, and Washington have all punched their tickets into the Elite Eight. So Big 12 looking to stay alive in this tournament, getting 4 teams to the Sweet 16. And so we'll see if BYU can knock off Stanford and punch their ticket to play against Michigan State. BYU Stanford at 3 o'clock Central today. Also TCU trying to get into the Elite Eight. TCU takes on North Carolina at 1 o'clock today. And so 2 teams left out of the Big 12 trying to get their tickets to the Elite Eight in Big 12 soccer. Ohio State over Baylor, Duke over Kansas. Just a couple of matchups already in the books, knocking teams in the Big 12 out. All right, across the NCAA. And how can we start with anything other than Shedeur Sanders? The former Colorado quarterback, Deion Sanders, was in the building to watch his son make his debut in the National Football League, and a win for the Cleveland Browns in a game that Shedeur actually, James, looked pretty good. A 24-10 victory for the Cleveland Browns over the Las Vegas Raiders. I know it's the Raiders, but Shedeur goes 11 for 20, 209 yards, had a touchdown, did have an INT, also added, had the one touchdown, but looked good. He really had a really good pass on 3rd and 12 that he completed for a first down, had a really nice touchdown pass. So how about Shedeur Sanders, James?
Yeah, 11 for 20, like 209. Had that 66-yard touchdown to Dylan Sampson. And remember, like, the Browns are so beat up that not only is he a 5th-round rookie quarterback, but he also doesn't have a whole lot around him. So, yeah, I would say this is probably an 8 out of 10 in terms of full debut. I know it's not his first time on the field this year, but for a guy that was a 5th-round pick, and that's the thing, he was a 5th-round pick, yet he still has 1st or 2nd-round expectations from the fans, which is very unfair. So I thought he delivered, all things considered.
Well, and he went full Shedeur following the game here. Take a listen.
It's amazing, off of 1 week of practice, you know what I mean? This 1 week of practice. So imagine, what a full offseason look like. It get dangerous. But it's just a 1 week of practice, so I'm just truly thankful, that everything happened. Win is crazy.
How about that for Shedeur? He's right, though, right? 1 week of practice. Imagine if they have a full offseason. I mean, it feels like nobody wants him to be successful, especially those in Cleveland. And I mean, he did it. And, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, there's been just a lot of naysayers, it feels like, publicly. And at least for, his first start, looked really good.
And he said it, and he said it in a way that is typical Shedeur, and people don't like that. But my first thought was, wow, this was his first showing where he's had a full week of practice as the number 1 guy. Imagine how good he could potentially be next year if he's their number 1 and practicing with the ones and training like the one all off season. So he said what all of us were thinking. I love it, man. I love the confidence, and I'd love to see what he could do if he did get an entire season as the guy.
Yeah, well said. Around college football, no really major upsets to speak of, and no surprises there because it feels like the Big Ten and the SEC had kind of a week off this week. Now, with that being said, Oregon with a nice win over USC, and I love, did you see Dan Lanning, his comments following the game? Dan Lanning says, quote, hold on. Sorry, I had the quote in front of me, and then I lost it.
Well, I think we have it.
Do we have it? Yeah, here's Dan Lanning. Thank you.
Well, we just played a really good team. We beat them. And a lot of times we play really good teams, they become unranked all of a sudden. That's not our fault, right? Maybe it is our fault. But all we're worried about is playing the teams that we play and doing the job that we need to do. And we did that job today, right? I think proof's in the pudding, right? We played a good team. We beat them, right? All we can do next week is try to do the same thing, right? And this conference is a really good conference. It's competitive, right? We didn't play Chattanooga State today, right? Like some other places, right? We competed. So, that being said, it's tough playing 9 conference games. It's tough playing in this league. And we got to take advantage of playing a good team today and attacking that.
There you go. Didn't play Chattanooga State this week like other conferences. I believe he's referencing the SEC, which had Texas A&M play Samford, Georgia play Charlotte, and plenty of other off games. Now, look, the SEC will argue, well, this is one, non-conference game that we were holding off, but I mean, it's more difficult to play tougher teams at the end of the year when you're hurt as opposed to early in the year when you're a little bit healthier. So, I mean, the SEC scheduling these non-conference bye games late in the season is probably something that other conferences should look at doing. I mean, how much better would it be to have kind of a late off week for some of these teams and be able to rest like they're able to do with these non-conference opponents that the SEC has late in the season?
Yeah, when are we going to start penalizing the SEC for this? It's ridiculous. Like, you don't think the Big 12 or the ACC or the Big 10 would like to play Samford this weekend? Like, Texas A&M played Samford, Georgia played Charlotte, Alabama beat Eastern Illinois. And that's the other thing. These aren't even the best FCS programs in the country. These aren't Montana State, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. They're playing Eastern Illinois is 3-9 on the season. Charlotte, who is an FBS but has a new coach, they are 1-10. Samford at the FCS level is 1-11. So it's ridiculous. I normally don't like Dan Lanning, but I love his comments. His comments taking shots at the SEC because he's right. He's totally right.
Yeah, elsewhere around college football, well, the ACC is getting wilder. Miami over Virginia Tech, 34-17. So 13th ranked Miami most likely to move up this week. Also, Pitt handled 16th ranked Georgia Tech, 42-28. So we'll see how this thing shakes out. It'll be coming down to the final game, I believe. Does Miami close with Pitt? Is that the final game next week? Yeah, Miami at Pitt. How about that? I mean, a huge game for the ACC at the end of the year. This is a Pitt team that way back when lost to West Virginia, James. But they are rounding into form at the end of the season. They've undergone some changes that have made them into the team they are now. But so Pitt and Miami will meet. Miami at 5-2 in conference play, 9-2 overall. Pitt at 8-3 overall, but 6-1 in the ACC.
Yeah, let's highlight the Pitt Georgia Tech game and zero in on those two teams. Okay, Georgia Tech, who was the favorite in this game, their best non-conference win was at Colorado, a game in which Colorado had a chance in the final minute. That was a one-score win for Georgia Tech. And then you hit it, man. Pitt's 8-3, 6-1. One of their two non-conference losses was against one of the worst teams in the Big 12 in West Virginia on the road. Like, that in itself should separate how much better the Big 12 is than the ACC, why the ACC should only be a one-bid league, regardless of who it is. Is it Pitt? Is it Miami? Is it Duke? I don't care, but there's no case for that conference to get more than one bid. And I think Pitt probably beats Miami next weekend. The game is at Pitt. It's at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. I haven't seen, Miami's not blowing the doors off anybody. That league is down.
Yeah.
Down bad.
Big
and then
time.
Notre Dame just destroyed Syracuse, 70-7. Like, Syracuse was a team that was supposed to contend in the ACC this year, and they're 3-8.
Great point. Yeah, I mean, and look, it's crazy because if you're a Big 12 fan, you have to root for Miami at this point because it feels like Miami could potentially get another at-large bid for the ACC. I just don't know best case scenario here. Like, it's a weird deal. No team ranked in the top 14 of the committee's ranking lost this weekend, so there shouldn't be much movement there. How about this insane story out of UAB with UAB football? So basically, offensive lineman Daniel Mincy stabbed 2 defensive linemen at breakfast before the game on Saturday. Apparently, this stemmed from a fight that took place at practice on Friday. So, a offensive lineman stabs 2 defensive linemen at practice, and then UAB went on to play a football game later on that day. They lose 48-18 to USF, but you have a situation in which one teammate stabs 2 other teammates, is arrested for said stabbing, and the team's like, no, we'll still play. They go out and play and lose 48-18 to South Florida.
Dude, this is one of the more bizarre stories I've ever seen in college football.
Yeah.
And Pete Sousa is going to join us tomorrow to talk about the Baylor situation, but also this, because he had UAB last Saturday, and they had to address this during their broadcast open. And I'm calling a UAB game this upcoming Saturday. Remember, they fired Trent Dilfer like mid-season. So their interim coach is ESPN reporter Chris Mortenson's son, Alex Mortensen, who was the quarterback's coach at Alabama for many years and like mentored all these guys that are now in the NFL. So the fight initially began on Friday, but then the stabbing actually occurred Saturday morning, just hours before kickoff, in the locker room.
Insane.
And they decide we're still going to play the game.
We're still
going to
play the game. We're still going to
play the game.
Got to play. Yeah, just insane. And then they lose 48-18. I guess would have been more remarkable if they had won. Not sure how to take this news, but Art Briles is back in college football. The former Baylor football coach who has been trying to get back into coaching has been hired officially by Eastern New Mexico University, a D2 school. Has not worked in college football since 2016 at Baylor. James, your thoughts on Art Briles getting another opportunity to coach in college football at Eastern New Mexico University?
Man, I'm a little bit torn on this. I mean, number one, he's 70, so he's 70 years old. Like this is his last run, his last chance in a program that's really struggling. Like, has Art Briles done his time? Essentially, is what it comes down to for me. And I would say that, man, there's been a lot of coaches in football and basketball all across the board who have done regrettable things, done their time, and gotten another chance. So if that's the bar that's been set, like if that's the process, then, I can see the angle of he deserves another shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. I mean, deserves is a tough word to use there.
Sure.
I mean, I think, he's certainly done his time. He is without a doubt and continues to be. I think a lot of times stuff like this happens with a coach or a player, and over time there's just like it's forgotten to a degree, and it's like everybody moves on. And Briles is the one where nobody's moved on, and I get it. Like, this was a very toxic situation at Baylor. I'll add that, many of the people that were arrested in association with the Art Briles' time, never were convicted. And we could argue about the legitimacy of, these crimes in our judicial system and whatever happened. But like at the end of the day, Art Briles is bearing the responsibility for a situation in which the majority of people implicated never even were convicted of a crime.
Right.
So it's extremely conflicting. You do worry about him taking over a program and what, the risks that could mean. But it feels like, he has been, I don't want to say unfairly because it seems fair, but relative to other standards, it feels like he has been punished more severely than many others in for similar situations.
Yeah. And where it becomes subjective is that punishment justified? Has it been justified? But that aside, there's no question that he's been punished more than other coaches for similar things in terms of violating school policy. And in 2023, a federal judge ruled that he was not negligent in this case. So this was an 8-year investigation. And I think now that the investigation is over, there's been 2 years since that ruling. enough time has passed, so that's why he's getting this opportunity. And he addressed it like right away. He said on the record, like, I understand I made mistakes. I'm sorry for that. I'm not trying to plead for people's sympathy. I made some mistakes. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I've learned, and I'm going to do better. And I think that's the right approach. And he is still like very active when it comes to coaching clinics and teaching the game to up and comers, the offensive aspect of things. His son is the offensive coordinator at TCU. They run a similar system to what he was running at Baylor. So like, there's no question the guy can coach, and now he'll get the chance to do it at the collegiate level. I think he was coaching in high school previously.
Yep. Yeah. No, he's kind of been around. He went and coached in Italy. He's been coaching high school. He's been trying. He was hired, I believe, at one point by a college, but there was so much outrage over it that he ended up stepping down based on the outrage, and I believe he was probably forced into that. So, yeah, it's been a long road for him, and he's back in college football. All right. Elsewhere around college football, as we take you around what happened this weekend, I think the other big thing would be some of the announcements around coaches, including Mike Norvell, who reportedly, according to Ross Dellinger, will return as Florida State's coach in 2026. That, again, according to Ross Dellinger. So a couple of back-to-back dreadful seasons for Florida State saves Mike Norvell's job. Anything else stand out to you around college football?
Yeah, so I want to add, this is a great note that Will, with the assist, gets credit for. Eastern New Mexico went 3-8 last year already. They were 3-6 in league play. Briles and the Eastern New Mexico athletic director, Kevin Feit, worked together when they were both at Houston.
Yep.
So there's the connection. I'm starting to think that the number, the over-under of 40 for college football coaching vacancies is a little bit too high. I think I'm leaning the under with the Dave Aranda news, with the Mike Norvell news. And this is initially kind of what we thought might happen this season because of the new House settlement and how large these buyouts are and how these programs have to make a choice. Do we pay anywhere from $15 to $40 million buyout plus hire a new coach, or do we take those potential NIL collective funds and figure out a way to pay for better players and better talent? And I think Baylor and Florida State in those cases have leaned towards, we're going to try and find better players to help these guys versus have to do both simultaneously. New players, better players, new coach, pay the old coach because you fired him. So I see both sides of it. But Mike Norvell said, didn't he say a couple of weeks ago that he felt like he was going to win a national championship at Florida State?
Yep.
He had some very polarizing comments, and people are looking at his track record and saying, buddy, you're a long way off. But they did beat Notre Dame. They beat Notre Dame week 1.
Yeah, you're right. And
Not Notre Dame, Alabama.
Thank you,
They beat
Alabama. Yeah, right. It was Miami that beat Notre Dame week 1.
That's right.
Big 12 radio, Big 12 today, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. All right, let's get you caught up on everything that happened this weekend on the hardwood because there were some tough losses on Friday for the Big 12. And how about this huge news that just came out with the Big 12? That's next. We're diving headfirst into basketball with James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. And James Westling, Ari Temkin, another day and another huge announcement out of the Big 12. And this one is really incredible. There was some news that started to percolate over the weekend about the Big 12 in partnership with the Players Era, a tournament that starts this week today in Vegas. Includes 4 Big 12 teams this year, including Iowa State, Baylor, Kansas, and Houston. Well, as of this morning, the Players Era, an Everwonder studio company in the Big 12 Conference, announced a first-of-its-kind partnership that will grant the Big 12 an equity stake in the marquee Players Era Men's Championship Tournament. As part of the landmark partnership, the Big 12, which has established itself as the top conference in men's basketball over the years, this via a release from the Big 12, will see the top 8 teams in the league standings receive automatic bids to the following year's Players Era Men's Championship, starting with the 2026 event and running through 2030. For Players Era, the strategic evolution represents the next phase of expansion as it establishes a new operating framework in college basketball. So, you finish top 8 in the Big 12 one year, you get an automatic berth into the Players Era tournament the next year, which is Thanksgiving week each year. And the Big 12 is getting a equity stake in the Players Era tournament. So we talk a ton, James, about revenue and access to revenue, and this, and the Big 12 having access to revenue that other conferences can't get. Well, this fits those boxes. And as much as we've heard about conferences selling off equity, here is a situation in which the conference is getting equity in another company.
This is massive. Like, it locks in these Big 12 teams to, number one, a very highly visible, publicized early season MTE, which is a pre-conference tournament. It's going to help strength of schedule. It's going to help with the national brand of these teams in the conference. It's going to help with recruiting, all the things. It's going to help these teams prepare for the postseason. And then I'm mathing. I am mathing out over here, okay? Because so the Players Era is going to commit no less than $50 million in rights fees over the term of this 6-year deal. So you break that down, and essentially it's $8.3 million per year. And this is if nobody in the Big 12 actually wins games, because the further you go, that's where that number jumps because these teams get more. So let's just assume everybody loses their first game. You've got 13 scholarship players on a roster. It boils down to about $75,000 per player. Even if you lose your first game, like that's a nice chunk of change for everybody playing in this tournament. And then if you win more than one game, you get even more. So this is big time for the league.
Well, I do wonder the particulars of the equity deal, but obviously the Big 12 is committed to helping it grow with 8 commitments each year. And so, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see kind of how this shakes out from a revenue standpoint for the Big 12, but it's good revenue-wise for Big 12 athletes, and it's good revenue-wise for the Big 12 overall as a conference as it looks to expand its coffers. Here's what Kelvin Sampson said last week about playing in some of these MTEs that involve NIL money.
We had no choice. You seen our budget? Seen our fundraising? We have no choice. We have to raise our money. Right. Recruiting right now, the schools with the most money get the best, especially in the portal. You got to have money. We don't have the same money these other schools have. So, as a staff, we have to go raise money. That's what I did this week, Kellen and I, on the phone 2 or 3 times, raise some money. I went to school. I had to get our administration to understand how important it was to follow through on the decision I made to be in this tournament. Sign the forms. Sign them today. When we're not quite sure, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't go through, it won't go through, but sign the forms anyway in case it does. So don't get me started on that.
So there you go. Kelvin Sampson basically saying we have to because of the financial realities, and we're trying to get as much money as we possibly can for our kids. and they're not getting it by coming just to Houston. So we've got to add this to the piece. And by the way, with this, the automatically all top eight teams out of the Big 12 qualify for the next year. Houston's going every year anyways now. So, right. But very eye-opening from Kelvin Sampson there in terms of the financial realities of Houston.
Yeah, I think that's just another example and a reminder that Houston is winning basketball games without the budget that everybody else has. Like, it's so much more about culture and player development than it is the financial piece. And the format for this Players Era is going to look very different starting next year. Okay, there's going to be 32 teams, which is the size of the old NIT. It's going to be World Cup-style pool play. This is from Matt Norlander at CBS. You're going to have 8 teams in 4 different pods that'll then feed into the bracket competition part of it. And we talked about the dollars associated. There's $30 million on top of that $50 million number that's going to be distributed in prize money. So having a 32-team tournament, like, what do we love about college basketball?
Yeah.
We love March Madness. We love the tournament feel. This is going to give us a 32-team tournament in November. And my point with that is that this is really good, not just for the Big 12, but for college basketball fans. And the Big 12 and college basketball is you know, those are two things that are very, very connected because the Big 12 dominates in men's basketball. So to have a tournament where that gets the interest of people that just watch March Madness in November, I think you're going to start to draw even more eyeballs on the Big 12. So it's a win for so many reasons for this league and the teams in this conference. And like top 8, man, that's half the league. Like that's half of the league. How many teams did we put in the NCAA tournament last year? Was it 7?
7, that sounds right, yeah.
And I think West Virginia would have been the 8th. So, like, West Virginia, based off last year's standings, would be in this year's tournament. Plus the 7 teams that made the NCAA tournament. They'd be in this field as well.
Yeah, so huge partnership announcement for the Big 12. And you know, look, the reality is you see more and more press releases from the Big 12 that discuss opportunities, commercial opportunities, quote unquote, as a first of its kind deal, which shows you just how incredible Brett Yormark has been from finding and figuring out most creative and interesting ways to generate revenue for a conference that sorely needs more and more revenue to be generated. All right, speaking of the Players Era Tournament, or the Players Era Festival, I should say, that starts today in Vegas. Creighton and Baylor get things going on True TV. At 1 o'clock, Kansas and Notre Dame at 2:30. That one's on TNT. Then also from the Players Era Tournament, 3:30 on True TV, it'll be St. John's, Iowa State. And then 5 o'clock tonight, Syracuse and Houston as part of the Players Era Tournament, James. So that gets rolling today, and then we'll continue on into tomorrow based on the outcome. The first couple of days will be preset games with Kansas playing Notre Dame, and then playing Syracuse, and Syracuse playing Houston, and then playing Kansas, and then Notre Dame playing Houston as well. On Friday, though, James, I want to get into what we saw this weekend, including some tough losses for the Big 12, including Louisville 74, Cincinnati 64, Texas Tech losing to Purdue 86-56, Clemson over West Virginia 70-67, and Nebraska over your K-State Wildcats 86-85. In fact, Friday was a really bad day for the Big 12 overall, where 4 Big 12 teams go 0 for 4 against Power 5 opponents, except for the one win that the conference got in a Power 5 matchup would be the game you called, James, a 98-70 win for BYU over Wisconsin. And here is one of your calls from Richie Saunders going off in that game on NBC for James's NBC play-by-play debut.
San Diego State, you don't have a choice. You have to be in the time. Right, jitterbugging. Saunders, history is letting right, terminates. Saunders coasting, bakes it through. Orana, Saunders ahead, lays it in. And down the stretch in the last 11 a season ago, and here he is, off the scuffle. Rebound Saunders, and Saunders the offense. Saunders double pump, slice. The three-point line, good split from right. Saunders three. The arena is huge arena, and depth perception is thrown off. Spinning on Blackwell, gives it up. Saunders, an NBA range three, is Blackwell today. Saunders pulls off the
All right, great call there from our boy James Wesley. Congrats, James, making your NBC debut, and it was a dandy for BYU.
I think Will Connerly is the real MVP, putting that montage together. Nicely done, Will. Yeah, he's a dude. Richie Saunders is a beast. He's so underrated. 26 points, had 5 threes. The biggest thing that stood out to me in this game, so A.J. DiBonsa picked up his 4th foul at the 17:50 mark of the second half. Like, we're just underway. The game is still very much in reach for Wisconsin. BYU ends up outscoring Wisconsin with him on the bench until he comes back in around the 8-minute mark. Like, my point is, it's not just the freshman phenom who is a walking bucket. You get him the ball, you get out of his way, and good things are going to happen. He shot a ton of free throws in this game. BYU is so well-rounded. Like, you're not going to beat BYU with talent, because I think they're the most talented team in the conference. They were dominant in this game. Rob Wright almost had a triple-double. Like, he was 2 rebounds away from a triple-double. They can just beat you in so many ways. And, man, they were on fire against Wisconsin.
Did I also catch a jitterbugging as well as a terminate?
Yeah, there was both, I believe.
Yeah. So you want to provide more context, or?
Well, I watch you jitterbug and dance your way into the studio every morning, and I thought, you know what? I need to carry that over into a broadcast, because the way Ari hip swivels to his seat every morning, that has to be on display somewhere in a college basketball game.
Okay, so that's what a jitterbug is, or jitterbugging is hip swivel?
Yeah, like a jitterbug.
Okay. I mean, I know the song. I know the scene from
jitterbug.
Zoolander. Jitterbug. Jitterbug.
Jitterbug is also a flip to easy-to-use cell phone. So it's also a burner cell phone.
I think it's more of like a cell phone for the elderly, but sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Jitterbug is a generalized term used to describe swing dancing.
Oh, got it. Okay, so it is a verb.
Yeah, it is.
So you don't even have to be jitterbugging. You can just be jitterbug.
Yeah, you can. You can be a lot of different bugs. But there's the spirit of jitterbugging, which is a 6-count swing done to swing rockabilly or rock and roll music.
Wow, it does not sound like you're reading it all. It sounds like you're just going that off the top of your memory.
No, I'm totally going off of my head. But Rob Wright can jitterbug all day long.
What about terminate? Can we add some context there? Anything that we need to know about you in terms of termination?
Sure. Well, hopefully my bosses don't hear that and think we need to terminate this guy,
right,
because that's stupid.
Yeah.
But no, terminate would be he kills his dribble. He kills his dribble. He terminates the dribble.
Yep. Love it.
If you're watching the game, you see him pick up the ball. He's terminated his dribble. He's terminated.
Your verb word choice your verb diction, James, is one to really. It's one to celebrate.
Yeah. It's an art. It's an art, and there's a love-hate relationship with it. It's meant to be, it's meant to be polarizing, and you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah. Good job. Appreciate you. And congrats, by the way. Congratulations, dude. That's amazing. We've been listening to you and watching you call games on ESPN, but now on NBC, and you're getting some really good games. That's fantastic. I'm happy to hear it.
It was a fun game. I'm more surprised you didn't lead with K-State blowing it against Nebraska, who's the hottest team in college basketball, I might add. They've won 12 in a row, dating back to last season.
Yeah. So the game's tied at 85 with only seconds remaining. Sam Hoiberg, the son of the coach for Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg, grabbed a surprising rebound and was followed with 0.6 seconds left, made one free throw to hold on for the 86-85 lead. But this was a good game, back and forth. I don't know that it says anything big picture about K-State. We know they could score. I think the biggest thing is, can they defend? And in this game, the answer was no.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't think it's a bad loss for K-State. Nebraska is a team that has been getting better under Fred Hoiberg, made the NCAA tournament. Like, it's not a bad loss for the league. I thought Texas Tech losing by 30 to Purdue was a little bit of a black mark for the conference. I thought they had a chance to win that game outright. I was very surprised by that. Purdue, I'm hoping that Purdue didn't come up with the blueprint to slow down JT Toppin, because he was held to 15 points and 8 rebounds, didn't shoot it well. They frustrated him all night. That was maybe the most shocking outcome outside of BYU and Wisconsin.
Yeah, Purdue just got on them quickly, and Texas Tech could do nothing to escape. Purdue is a team that's like, they're ready for March. Whereas Texas Tech, it's like, we'll see in March what you look like. I still have high expectations for Texas Tech, but Purdue is like, this is an experienced team. It feels like right now the two best teams in college basketball are Houston and Purdue. But with that being said, I think with the AP polls released later today, Arizona is probably going to be number one, and so they should definitely be in that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Arizona's got the best resume, but Purdue might look like the best team.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Big 12 today. Plenty more to come, including Darren Peterson is going to be out for Kansas during the Players Era Festival, so we'll see how they handle that with Notre Dame on the docket for this afternoon and Syracuse tomorrow. This is Big 12 today. Void or valid, including the announcement on Dave Aranda's future, is coming up. This is Big 12 today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. This is Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Thanks for hanging out with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12 Conference. Tune in Big 12 Studios along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin, and we are pleased to be joined right now by a junior at Arizona State University, Braden Ellis, who was a part of the mentorship.
Recording in progress.
Sports business major with public relations and strategic communications minor. We're talking with Braden about this really cool symposium that Arizona State held recently, the ASU Sports Business Symposium. Really cool opportunity with Josh Bartelstein and Kari Black from the Big 12 taking part, and many others. And Braden's joining us now to talk about it. What's going on, Braden? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Appreciate your time this morning as we talk through some of the really cool opportunities afforded for students in the Big 12 and specifically at Arizona State. Tell us a little bit about what this symposium is all about.
So with the symposium, we're getting industry professionals coming to speak and share their experiences and like any life advice for our sports business students, so they can like get an insight on what their life in the future is going to be like.
Can you take us through some of the topics? Like, I know that Kari was there talking about sports media rights and everything that kind of goes into that behind the scenes, but what all went on throughout the course of the day?
So through the course of the day, we have like around 300 students coming to see all these people speak, and the event is completely organized by students. So it's our SBA, Sports Business Association Executive Board, and then a couple students here and there with the help of our marketing department, but it's mainly for students, run by students. As you said, we have our Future of Media Rights panel. We had a panel talking from the presidents within the industry, so a bunch of agencies. We had Nick Baker, who works in LA for stadiums out there and crypto arena and all that stuff. So it's just getting different insights for multiple different parts of the industry, because not every student wants to go into the same thing, like stadium operations. They want to learn about all the aspects of sports.
What stood out to you and what did you take away from it?
As someone who wants to kind of lean more into like the media and public relations and writing side, the media rights panel, being able to work on it and be a student coordinator for it was like so eye-opening for me, because I got to see like and talk with some people that I never dreamed I would ever talk to. Like I got to talk to Kari Black or Kate Houlihan, who works for ESPN, and then Ed Swindler, who works for Fox. And it's just seeing how their life is and how my life can be like that in the next like 10, 15 years is like amazing to watch.
Man, that's really cool. So when you say, see what their life is like in terms of what they do for a living, what does that mean? What were the biggest takeaways that you were able to gather from what you learned from the group that you just rattled off there?
Kate Houlihan specifically stood out to me the most, because they all treated me as like a professional, which was really cool. But we had like a great conversation just about like my future career aspirations and like my experiences that I've had. Like for the summer, I worked in the Cape Cod Baseball League, so that was a really eye-opening experience, and talking to her about that, and she's just telling me that I just need to go for it and not like hold myself back, was like something I'm going to take into my future.
Awesome. And so what did you do as part of your role in this?
As a student coordinator, we handle everything that involves getting the panelists to the symposium, getting them the questions that they're going to be asked by our moderator, organizing student questions that the students are going to be asking them, anything like basic that they need. So like I was in charge of writing every single question that our moderator got to ask them. I got to go on the stage and introduce all of them and their roles. I got to ask them all the questions that the students were sending in through our emailing thing that we had, and basically just anything that they needed throughout that day, I was like there to help.
That's awesome.
Man, yeah, this sounds really cool. This Arizona State Sports Business Symposium that took place on Friday, November 14th. Now, I think for next year, for 2026, you could probably get Ari Temkin to join the panel. Now, all he requires is a first class flight. has to be first class, none of that coach business, and then the room has to be set at 67 degrees Fahrenheit. And then for dinner, he only eats 12-ounce filet mignon. So if you can make those three things happen,
Two of
I
those
think we
things
can-
are true.
Only two. Only two.
You just have to decide which two.
So how many, like, what all went into this behind the scenes? Like the students getting together, organizing all this, coming up with the questions, everything that you were talking about that went through the process.
Yeah, it's about, I want to say, like, we have the plan of, like, when we're doing symposium, typically at the start of the school year, so in August. But all the, like, nitty-gritty details that go into symposium, I want to say start, like, about a month and a half before. We have, like, professors that help us email all these industry professionals. And then from there, our VP of Outreach, Ryan Bergman, he kind of is in charge of symposium, so he helps organize what students are going to be helping with symposium along with our executive board. So that starts about like a month and a half before symposium even happens. And then from there, it's like grind time. We have to get everything done. We have to make sure all the industry professionals can come. And if they can't come, we have to have backups on top of backups. From there, we have to organize their flights and hotels and transportation to get to our campus because our symposium is held in our student pavilion, which is right in the center of campus. And then from there, we typically do like a dinner, like a reception dinner. We did it before our symposium this year. So select students, along with all the panelists who were there, select professors, and like our sports business advisory board, we all had a reception dinner before symposium to like get to know them more on like a personal level and not just like meeting them for the first time at symposium, because that can be a little bit stressful because I know all of us students are just running around trying to get things done.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, James would be happy to participate next year. You just got to make sure you meet his fee, which I believe is 6 figures. But other than that, you can definitely get James Westling to participate next year. So you'll have to look for James to be a part of this symposium next year.
It's going to be huge. I'll get you in touch with my agent, and then we'll go from there. We'll see what the rate is.
Perfect.
Now that he's on NBC, he's got to ask for 6 figures. You know how that works.
At least 6. I mean, that's a pretty low bar, I would say.
Braden, appreciate you hopping out with us and dealing with our shenanigans. Thank you, Braden. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Braden Ellis, ASU student, part of this Arizona State symposium that they put on a couple of Fridays ago. Really cool deal where they get access to lots of movers and shakers in media and sports and otherwise as part of the sports business program at Arizona State. Really cool. And sometimes on the show we like to highlight, the cool programs, really interesting, unique aspects of this conference.
Well, I just love the fact that Braden gave a shout out to Kari Black, who we work with on a almost daily basis, who's been so helpful to us and this program and this show. So really cool that he was there, and then to have the keynote speaker be the CEO and president of the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, like that's a big deal. And Arizona State has an incredible journalism department and sports broadcasting school. So anytime we can help them, we love to give back because they have helped us so much. Like Arizona State has been fantastic just in terms of their transparency and their availability, and they're a great partner in this conference.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We'll visit with our Monday morning quarterback, Taylor McHarg, coming up in the final hour of the show. On the way next, though, it's time for Valid or Void. Top 5 statements from the weekend, and we decide whether or not these statements are valid or void next, including Dave Aranda's return to Baylor is the right move at the right time for the Baylor Bears athletic department. That's next with James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio. Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. You can always check out where we're at on Big 12 Studios, whether you can stream us on Tubi, Roku, Amazon Prime Video at big12studios.com. And, of course, make sure to download the TuneIn app. That way you can find Big 12 Radio, and you'll find us, Big 12 Today, plus all the other great Big 12 content as a part of Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin on this Thanksgiving week. And it's time now for a little valid or void. Top 5 statements from the weekend. James Westling, and I decide whether or not these are valid or void. James, what do you got?
Oh, yeah. Every Monday, valid or void, we bring the heat. So I'm going to give you a statement, and you tell me if it's valid or if it's void, and we'll discuss. All right, number 1. Dave Aranda is back at Baylor. They made the announcement over the weekend. Dave Aranda returning to Baylor is the right move for the program at this time. Is it valid or is it void?
I mean, come on. We've got to work with this program moving forward. James, why would you? I mean, I'll say void. And while there are Baylor fans that are happy about this move and want to see the program be successful with Aranda, I'd say there's just a ton of negative momentum around this program. And, I mean, I get it. You don't want to be rushed to have to make a move, but this announcement by Linda Livingstone, to me, sounds a lot like, tell me you don't have a voice of the, or a pulse of the fan base, not telling me you don't have a pulse of the fan base. Because this just seems completely counterintuitive to the momentum and excitement of the program right now. And look, I think Aranda is a really good defensive coordinator. I think he's proven he gets himself far too into the minutia as a head coach that he needs to. And so that's a big reason why I don't think he's been successful as a head coach. Now, you could also say that some of the money they might be using to buy out Dave Aranda if they were to fire him early could be used to improve the talent on the team, and so we'll see if that happens. But I'm voiding this. No, it's not the right move for the program at this time.
Yeah, I think in terms of wins and losses, you're certainly right. And we want Dave Aranda to be successful at Baylor. He's been very generous, very kind with us on this program. But it's hard to look past a 36-35 record, even including a Big 12 championship and an 11-2 season or whatever it was. His second year at the helm, which was a lot of Matt Rule's players. I think that, hiring an athletic director and a head football coach simultaneously can be very difficult. So I understand why they're doing this, but I don't necessarily think it's the right move, right. Especially when you're probably going to have to replace Robertson, Washington, and Cameron, your big 3 offensively for next season. And they're trying to salvage this thing with a top 25 recruiting class, but these high school kids aren't going to be ready to step on the field right away and play.
Right.
And if they are, you're not going to finish top half of the Big 12
right.
with a bunch of
If they are, you got issues. Yep.
Right. So I'm with you. All right, number 2. Utah, Kansas State. Valid or void, Utah played itself out of the college football playoff race with their performance against Kansas State on Saturday.
Wow. So I'd say void here. I mean, I think the sentiment is that Utah didn't help itself, but I don't know how it couldn't have. I mean, sure, it was a home game, but they ended up winning it, and the way in which they won it was absolutely incredible. So, I mean, I guess I just don't get part of the criteria of the playoff committee. Feels like any other team wins a game like this and they get the benefit of it. And in this case for Utah, it feels like from a national perspective, it's more of like, oh man, they looked really bad against a bad team. Like, no. That's not how I take it at all. And look, I mean, ultimately, it looks like the Big 12 is doing itself no favors in terms of the committee eyes. So I'm not really sure that Utah could have done anything to hurt its chances more than the committee has hurt its chances. I'm just not sure that Utah has a shot at making a playoff, despite the fact that they probably should, because they could end 10-2, have a very successful season, and still find themselves on the outside looking in terms of the Big 12 championship picture.
Yeah, I'm going to say valid for a lot of the same reasons, but take the other side. Because I think that while this shouldn't hurt them, when it comes to the rankings or where they're at in the picture, I think it will. Like, I think the College Football Playoff Committee is looking for reasons to penalize these teams on the bubble, not in the SEC. And I think that they're going to look at this game and say that style points matter, and Utah didn't have them against Kansas State. And, like, a lot of other things have to happen for Utah to be in the conversation, because right now they're not the first team out. They're like the third or fourth team out because there's not actually that many spots left. So in terms of not having an opportunity to get a signature win this late in the year, to beat a team that's fighting for their life to make a bowl game is going to hurt them in the eyes of the College Football Playoff Committee, even though it should not hurt them, because they found a way to win. They rallied. They won in the same manner that a lot of other teams have won, a la Texas A&M against South Carolina last weekend. It didn't hurt them, but I think that the committee and the lean that they have, I think they're going to hurt. They're going to penalize you.
It's a great point, by the way. A&M did not get punished at all for barely squeaking by a South Carolina team that's not any good. And you get the case that the K-State team that Utah just squeaked by, coming from behind it for the victory, was better than the South Carolina team that Texas A&M had to get past in the second half.
Absolutely. South Carolina's won 3 games this year. They're not even sniffing a bowl game. With a Heisman caliber quarterback, Lenoris Sellers, coming into the year.
Yeah.
All right, number 3. Can't wait to get your thoughts on this one. Chris Kleiman, the Kansas State football coach. We listened to his postgame audio earlier. Chris Kleiman firing back at the K-State fan base, defending him, defending himself, defending his players, asking for respect and grace for this season. Is that the right move for Chris Kleiman?
So, if I say valid, I'm saying it is the right move?
Correct.
So I'll say void. I'm going 3 straight voids here. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head here in terms of it didn't strike me as a run through a wall for this guy kind of statement. It strike me as more of a I feel bad for this dude. Now, with that being said, I think you and I are under the same impression here that Chris Kleiman is not in the hot seat. You know, maybe next year he will be, but I'd say for now, like, he's still done way more positives that you should not be looking for a new head coach. Now, with that being said, they lost 3 of their last 4 without counting the bowl game into last season, and they're 5-6. If you count the bowl win, James, they're still just 7-9 since basically November of last year. So that is not up to the standard of Kansas State. It's not. And that is the most troubling part of this is they really fumbled down the stretch of the season last year and had a bad November, and that has really carried over into this season. They've not been very good overall since November of 2024. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, they've put all their eggs in the Avery Johnson basket. It hasn't worked out. I think that, NIL-wise, they're probably paying him above market value to keep him in Manhattan. And what it's led to is they don't have the depth this year. The injuries that they've sustained, it wasn't next man up for Kansas State. And that's not taking the running back position into account because Joe Jackson has been very, very serviceable. It's more so been defensively. And I think that when a coach acknowledges the chatter among the fans, it only ratchets that chatter up.
Yes, you're right. You're totally right. It substantiates it.
The K-State fans now know that he's watching, he's listening, he's paying attention, which is going to further magnify that public outcry from K-State fans that are against him. And the K-State fans, they're pretty split right now on this thing. And I haven't seen this in Manhattan in a really long time when it comes to football. So I'm with you. I'm voiding it. Love Chris Kleiman, but don't necessarily think that acknowledging the fans in this way, in a defensive manner, is the way to go. All right, number 4.
Yeah, like
Let's
in some
pivot
cases, just real quickly, in some cases, social media access can be very bad for a program because it can skew the way you think about it. And, Chris Kleiman I'm giving my everything I have to this program. Like, yeah, dude, nobody's questioning that. Is anybody questioning how much Chris Kleiman has given to this program? And if they are, they should be beaten over the head.
And I don't know that, like, it's rare in college football for fans to question coaching effort.
Right.
I don't think effort is ever the issue.
Right.
It's do you
Great
win or
point.
lose football games?
Yeah.
All right, number 4, let's pivot to basketball. BYU beats Wisconsin by 28. Texas Tech loses by 30 to Purdue. Houston is Houston. BYU is the best team in the Big 12 men's basketball, not named Houston. Valid or void?
I'm going to void that. I think Arizona has proven that. In fact, some of my friends from Arizona continue to knock me for saying that they were not top 3 preseason. So I'm just gonna rectify that mistake by putting them in the top 2 right now of the Big 12. BYU is probably 3rd, but not 2nd to Houston. Arizona might even be the best team in the Big 12 just based on resume alone, with the 3 wins that Arizona's pulled already this season: Florida, UCLA, and UConn. 3 of their 5 wins have been impressive. So yeah, I'm gonna void this statement. BYU is really good. Impressive win over Wisconsin on Friday, but not the best team in the Big 12, not named Houston. That'd be Arizona.
Man, I was trying to get you on the recency bias, and you didn't take the bait.
Did not take the bait.
He fishes, but he does not need the bait.
That's right. I fish. I'm not a fish getting caught, okay?
Right. No bait, no problem.
Important distinction there. I'm not looking for bait. I'm only catching fish.
Well, and those teams have a common opponent, BYU and Arizona in UConn. It's a great note. I mean, Arizona's got the win. BYU lost to UConn, and they were down by as many as 20 in the second half. But BYU might be the most talented team in the Big 12. I cannot wait for BYU Houston and BYU Arizona. BYU Arizona especially, just to see all that star power. I mean, there were 34 NBA scouts in attendance for the BYU Wisconsin game. That number might be double when BYU plays Houston or BYU plays Arizona. It's going to be insane. All right, number 5. Can't wait to get your thoughts on this. The NIL, we're back to college football. Okay, we've been talking about this for the last 2 years. But this past Saturday in college football, there were minimal upsets. Valid or void, this statement: the NIL/transfer portal is killing late season college football theatrics, upsets, college football playoff rankings, shuffling, the bubble watch. After this past Saturday, there were basically 0 upsets outside of Pitt beating Georgia Tech, which Georgia Tech was like number 15 in the country coming in.
I'm going to say void, and I think it's a really interesting statement and a great topic and talking point as I go void on all 5 of these, James. But, there's still opportunities next week. But it does feel like there's less craziness in November this year than we've seen in recent history. And that goes back to motivation. So, I mean, maybe there is something to this, because we used to wonder about motivation in bowl games. But now, because of NIL and the transfer portal, feels like motivation can be skewed even at the end of the season when you get guys that completely check out, or even enter the portal or have intentions to enter the portal when they're still playing for a team. So I guess I say void for now, but it's just incomplete. And let's check back in a few years and see how much this continues to be skewed. But yeah, I mean it's funny too, because we heard all about how the playoff would only improve the importance of the regular season and make all these regular season games that much more important. And I think what we're seeing is that's not the case, because we're going to have a lot of meaningless end of season games here, especially in the SEC. Like, the SEC is going to have 5 teams in the pool in the playoff field heading into the final week of the season, and I would imagine even with losses, many of those teams will still get bids. So shows and plays up how meaningless some of these end of season games have become because of the expanded playoff, which is the exact opposite of what everybody said would be the case. There'll be more meaningful games at the end of the year.
Totally agree. And So right now I'm looking at the 2019 college football season. And this past Saturday, 6 years ago, you didn't have a ton of upsets. Like the teams that were expected to win won. However, with that said, you did just have a lot more top 25 matchups. That's the big thing that stands out. When you look at the scheduling and you look at not just the SEC, but the Big Ten, the ACC, here in the Big 12, you had a lot of top 10, top 25 matchups that we just didn't see, and there were a couple of upsets, like Arizona State beat Oregon. November 23rd, 2019, Arizona State was unranked, Oregon was number 6 in the country. And those kind of one-off upsets, at least the last 2 years, we simply haven't seen. Now, I think the sample size is still too small.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I do think that the gap between teams in the top 10, top 15, wherever they may be, more favorites, maybe they're not having better marks against the spread because Vegas has accounted for it. But in terms of outright upsets, we're not seeing what we saw 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Well, I do think part of that is the motivation piece, which is certainly, teams and guys are motivated to knock off the opposition in a situation where it's all right, they're cruising to the Big 12 championship game or the conference championship game. The motivation for teams would be knock that team off and try to be spoiler. But you do have situations in which players have already checked out. They're intending to enter the portal, whatever it might be. And so, whereas in years past, if that were the case, those players may not, may have tuned back in order to play spoiler in a way that they're not right now.
Sure. And I think this late in the year, it's all about getting tape for the portal. Sure, guys are still putting in the effort, but versus, hey, we've got a chance to dethrone a team that's that's in the college football playoff mix or a conference championship game mix. They're more concerned about, I need to go out for myself and play really hard and play really well so that I have tape to be retained next year under my current contract or to enter the portal and get a better deal somewhere else. The motivation's still there. It's just totally different, the mindset and the approach across the landscape.
All right, that's James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. That is a little Monday Valid or Void presented by Modelo. Cheers to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. James Westling, Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Taylor McHarg, our Monday morning quarterback, is next. It's Big 12 Radio. little Violent Femmes on this Monday. It's a Modelo Monday with full reaction to everything that happened this weekend in college football in the Big 12, Week 13. Taylor McHarg, our Monday morning quarterback, will join us coming up in about 10 minutes from now. We've talked about this throughout the year, but there's different venues in which BYU would go into as visiting fans, and then you hear a really unwelcoming chant, and it's unfortunate that we heard this at Nippert Stadium. Ben Criddle, who hosts on ESPN The Fan in Provo, tweeted out a video during the Cincinnati-BYU game, tweets, another F the Mormons chant emerges now at the Cincinnati game versus BYU. There was another BYU fan that said the only venue for which we have not heard the F the Mormons chant was at Texas Tech this season, so congrats to Texas Tech. This is probably made even worse by the fact that BYU fans donated tons of money to the Cincinnati Food Bank before this game. But I want to highlight this because it's important to note that that BYU has meant so much to the Big 12. I think it's just disgraceful that we continue to hear these chants in BYU venues, in Big 12 venues, and we need to stop this. And previously, the Big 12 fined the university, I think it was Colorado, for these chants, and I'd like to see the same done to Cincinnati. This is just atrocious. This is awful. There's no place for this. In no other area would we be able to hear F the blank religion and be okay with it. For some reason, though, we hear it with Mormons, and it's fine, and it's acceptable. It should not be acceptable, cannot be acceptable. This is atrocious, and I hate this.
Yeah, that's very well said. It's not okay, and they will be fined. And it was a hefty fine that Colorado received, and the Big 12 made it very clear that if this happens, there's going to be consequences. So I believe it was $50,000 that they were fined. And so I'm hoping that we're inching closer to this being the last time that we talk about this. Because, man, you brought up a great story. Like Cincinnati was taking donations, and their football program is really tied into the food bank. And BYU sent a semi full of stuff, backed up a U-Haul type truck full of non-perishable food items to donate to this food bank. Like, they do incredible things. We have Spencer Linton from BYU TV on all the time, and they're highlighting the opponent before every BYU game. Like, nobody else in the league does that. And
yeah, like they do these incredible, almost 30 for 30 like, docu-series.
Yeah,
basically. Exactly, on the opposition. So I mean, they had this great story on Rich Franklin, the former Cincinnati Bearcat who went on to become a UFC fighter, and like incredible stories. They're spending time and money to discuss these stories, to show these stories. I mean, the BYU has been such an incredible and instrumental addition to the Big 12. And yet we constantly see teams and their fan bases that are, invalidating the feelings that many Big 12 fans and people should have about BYU joining the conference. This is just disgraceful. You'd never hear F the blank for any other religion. It's disgraceful.
And BYU and Cincinnati came into the league at the same time. Like there's never any justification
right
for this to happen. And I think this will be the last time, because this is the first time BYU's played at Cincinnati, and so now they'll get slapped with the fine. Scott Satterfield or the athletics director John Cunningham will probably release a statement, have comments about how there's no place for it, and hopefully we can move on, because we've talked at length about how the BYU fans and their programs are great. They've been really good for the Big 12. Like Cincinnati, all these other places should be grateful that BYU's part of this conference. Like, you look at the how much each and every sport is just surging right now. They're a big brand, huge alumni base, nationwide recognition. Like, the Big 12 is lucky to have them, and they're lucky to have the Big 12. It's the perfect marriage.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that right now across the board in multiple sports.
Yeah, well said. Could not agree with you anymore. Like, I know the BYU fans have been so excited about being added to the Big 12, but I think that their addition has meant as much to the Big 12 as it's meant to BYU. I really believe that. And, I mean, we've got to start acting like it. I mean, this is just childish, sophomoric behavior. And it's disgraceful because BYU fans live everywhere, They attend many away games, and as much as we compete against each other and want to win, like this is shameful. It's awful, and I'm sick of seeing it at Big 12 stadiums. It needs to stop.
And they always handle it with class. They handle it with class. They handle it with grace. And then they move on, and they keep chugging away day after day. Like Kalani Sitake and the way he operates his football program, it reminds me a lot of how Kelvin Sampson operates Houston basketball. Like they're very much in their silo, and it's all about them and just getting better every day, and the results and what all the outside noise is. It is what it is. They're not concerned about it. And for Cincinnati to have a game of that magnitude and get beat in that manner, I'm sure was upsetting and frustrating. But that's like BYU football went in there, and BYU was just the better team on Saturday. And to your point, man, it's. I thought we were done with it, so it's disappointing. It's very disappointing that it happened again.
Yeah, no, well said. All right, Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. We are presented by Modelo. Moments away from visiting with our Monday morning quarterback, Taylor McHarg, who will join us to break down his thoughts on the Week 13 games. A reminder that the NCAA Women's Soccer Tournament is going on. Yesterday, the Big 12 lost in a couple of its matches, including Kansas falling to Duke 2-0, which sets up an Elite Eight matchup with Duke and Washington. We also saw Texas Tech go down to North Carolina in a Sweet 16 matchup in penalty kicks. TCU, meanwhile, beat Memphis in a Sweet 16 matchup, which sets up TCU and North Carolina for a spot in the Elite Eight in a game that you can catch at 1 o'clock Central today. Also, we've got Ohio State knocking off Baylor. So Ohio State plays Florida State in the Elite Eight. Michigan State plays the winner of BYU and UCLA, rather BYU and Stanford, as BYU beat UCLA. Now BYU takes on Stanford to get to Michigan State. So a couple of teams already out for the Big 12. 2 teams looking to punch their tickets to the Elite Eight in the women's soccer tournament. All right, let's talk with our Monday morning quarterback, Taylor McHarg, here on Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Taylor, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are y'all doing?
Doing great. We're on video now, but I guess no video for Taylor. All right, so let's go with Taylor, the biggest win of the weekend.
It got to be Utah, right? I mean, the way that they won that game, you're trying to hang on for your playoff life. I mean, I guess you could make the argument for BYU as well, and that if Cincinnati can kick field goal, that game is a little bit different. But for Utah, and James, I'm sorry to focus here with your Wildcats again, but that game, you look 3 minutes left in that game, you think it's over. And for Utah to stay in the fight, create the play on the 2-point, where they're able to create the 2 points there with, again, like 3 minutes left in the game, you look up and say, this is over. And for Kansas State, the woes continue, especially on the road, at a place where, it is so difficult to go in and get a win at Utah, and to keep their hopes alive of an at-large bid. I think it's a long odds at this point. They need a lot of help up ahead of them. But I think you got to start there. And then behind Utah, BYU, like I said, that's a team that fighting for their playoff lives and a chance to get to the Big 12 championship. And Cincinnati is a tough place to play, especially at night. I know Cincinnati's kicking themselves because, again, the field goal issues in that first half. But I would say those two, but especially starting with Utah, the way that they were able to hang on and win that game.
What were your impressions of the quarterback matchup as you are our Monday morning quarterback? Devin Dampier willing his team to a victory. Kansas State has a chance. They've got the ball with about a minute to go and a couple of timeouts, and Avery Johnson throws an interception. Just how impressive was Dampier and what stood out?
I think that he's been banged up for so much of the season. And, the way that Utah, they win 2 weeks ago against Baylor, Berg Ficklin goes for over 150 yards on the ground, right? And they're figuring out different ways to win. But for Dampier I know he's still not healthy. And so for him to kind of will his team to win, and especially in a matchup like that where Kansas State, they threw everything they had at Utah, and it was probably the worst defensive performance of the season for the Utes. And I just credit to staying in the fight again for Dampier and showing the toughness that, and Kyle Whittingham talked about it after the game, about the toughness of his team and of his quarterback. And so, look, I think Utah and BYU, I think they're both two of the top teams, not only obviously in the Big 12, but in the country. I think BYU just kind of shifting gears a little bit. I think it's going to be a travesty if they don't end up making the college football playoff. Where they're at right now, they need help, because I think even if they were to get to the Big 12 championship, which it looks like they will, I think the teams that are up ahead of them, they're going to need for example, like an Alabama to lose in this Iron Bowl somehow. I think the way it's shaking out right now, unfortunately, it's looking more and more like this is going to be a one-bid league, unless BYU and or Utah get some help.
Yeah, well said. Taylor McHarg joining us here on Monday Morning Quarterback. Taylor, curious for your thoughts on Jeff Sims. Jeff's a guy that, has had turnover issues in his career and, has not had a great career, but, has really turned it on here for Arizona State down the stretch. And he did have a couple of turnovers in this game, but did enough offensively to help Arizona State get to 8-3.
Yeah, it's another testament to Arizona State. I think a few weeks ago, you look at, okay, you have quarterback go down, and is that a team that's going to fold? And I think it also speaks to the culture that's been built in Tempe right now. The way that they won, I know Colorado's not having a great season, but that Arizona State and Arizona, that those two teams with the quarterback issues that Arizona State's had, and that they still have figured out a way to win. And for Jeff Sims, going all the way back to that win against Iowa State, it hasn't always been pretty, but incredibly impressed with him. And for Noah Fafita at Arizona, this game this weekend is one of my favorites of the weekend. I love that it's on kind of a Friday night, late night slate, that spot with Arizona and Arizona State, because Arizona's another story. Going into this season, their win total was, I believe it was below 500. I think they were at 5 wins was the expected win total for them, and that they have a chance here to get their 9th win. That's a skinny line. It's under a field goal right now between Arizona State as a slight favorite. And so testament to both of those teams. But for Sims, going back to your question, the resolve and everything that he's been through in his career. This is somebody that's moved around quite a bit, has not had success nearly at this level. I think it's a great kind of cap to his career that after you have an injury ahead of you, that you're able to step up and kind of keep this program moving forward. And I know this is not what Arizona State wanted out of their season. I know that Mississippi State loss earlier in the season kind of proved to be the thorn in their side all year that they couldn't really overcome. But credit to Jeff Sims for the way that he's fought, and for Arizona State overall, that they've got a chance here to still get to that 9th win despite all the injuries that they've had.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, Taylor, there's a collection of teams that haven't had the season that maybe they were hoping coming in, but are still quietly with 7 or 8 wins. And I would throw TCU and Iowa State in that mix as well. And Josh Hoover goes for 293 against Houston. Rocco Becht was fantastic. He had 241 and 3 touchdowns. Of those two guys, who has stood out more down the stretch to you?
I think Rocco Becht is a guy, I would compare him to how I think Quinn Ewers will be remembered at Texas, a little underappreciated. I think there's so much good that has happened with Iowa State the last few years, and Iowa State fans, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, seem to want to give credit to a lot of other people. And I know Rocco Becht is not the 6'4" first-round pick kind of prototype that you want out of your quarterback. He's an undersized guy. He's not real flashy most of the time, but the stability that he's brought you, and James, you make a great point. You think about where Iowa State was in the middle of October, where it looked like, is this team going to win another game? Are they going to? Is this going to be the bottom's just totally falling out and they don't get above 500? And now they've got an opportunity. You would imagine they beat kind of a corpse of a team in Oklahoma State at this point that is just trying to survive their season. Can they get to that 8th win? And that's incredible. Have an 8-win season where, again, just a few weeks ago, it looked like the bottom had completely fallen out. TCU, I thought they showed tremendous resolve going on the road and the way that they beat Houston. That's not the style that TCU has typically won by, but led by their defense in that game. And I know, very disappointing for Houston the way that game went and the fact that they lost that game. But that's another team that the quick turnaround. And for Coach Fritz, I'm one of his biggest supporters. I think he's one of the best under the radar coaches that doesn't get enough love in this profession. For them to, as bad as they were a year ago, to turn around and have the opportunity to even we were talking about them in the middle of November to potentially make it to the Big 12 championship, and that they've got a chance to get to their 9th win. I'd put all three of those, Iowa State, Houston, and TCU, for getting to the spots that they're at right now. They deserve a ton of credit because, we spend so much time talking about the college football playoff and who's going to get in and who's going to win the league. But there's so many teams out there, James. I know you're on the road. You see this every week with these teams. They're still fighting, and bowl games still matter to the majority of these programs. And so having a 9-win season or an 8-win season, that's nothing to kind of brush off and look past. I think there's still a lot of pride that is in these programs to try and get to these wins late in the year, even if they're not playing for a championship.
Taylor, I'm curious for what you saw from the freshman quarterback, Julian Lewis, for Colorado making his first start. It was not a great offensive game for Colorado, but what did you see from the youngster?
Yeah, that he's got tremendous talent, that you can see in him, especially when he's able to make the second play. And there are opportunities where whether it's breaking contain or something breaks down around him, there's clearly ability there. I think that offensive line, there are a number of issues for Colorado, and I think it starts up front. But not having an interception against that defense, and especially as many times as they had him put it in the air, you got a lot of trust in your quarterback to throw it almost 40 times. And that was one of the other things that stood out to me. If you've got a freshman in the game and you want to protect him or you don't trust him, then you're not throwing it 40 times. And for him to not have an interception, now there were a couple that were turnover-worthy throws, but I think that's a guy that, if Colorado, and it looks like Coach Prime, it sounds like, is going to be back next year, if they can retain him, I think the emphasis has to be, and it has been this way for the last couple seasons, they've got to find some more stability in the offensive line.
Taylor, what do you think was missing this year for Avery Johnson compared to maybe the type of season that we thought he would have coming in?
Kansas State, especially early in the season, was the biggest head scratcher to me. And Avery Johnson in there as well, but I felt like it was the kind of the ethos of the team for the whole season, that they were in the right spots, they look well coached, they're doing everything the right way, and then they just don't make whatever the play is, whether it's a drop on third down or it's a poor throw from Avery on a critical down. The throw, I think about late in the game when they've got Baylor on the ropes and you throw one of the worst interceptions of the season for him. And that's sort of been the story of Kansas State all year. This is an incredibly talented team. I don't think this was a championship caliber team this year, but is this a team that you're having to win your 6th game in the last game of the season to get to a bowl? No, it should not have been that. I think they should have been more in the Iowa State or TCU, what we were just talking about, where you're fighting for that 8 or 9 wins. And I know for Kansas State, that's not the goal. They want to have double-digit win seasons and get to the Big 12 championship. But this entire season to me was defined by off a half step here or an inch or two here, and just not making plays when they were there to be made. And Avery Johnson had a hand in that as well. Again, some of the turnover issues go back to, against Army. Defense can't get off the field, and the efficiency that Army had in that game on 3rd and 4th down, where Kansas State only had, it was like 8 possessions in the entire game. Things like that, where the constant frustration, it felt like they could never get past that all season. And now you got to win one. You would imagine that they get this one upcoming this week. But Kansas State fans were not expecting that, hey, we've got to beat Colorado at the end of the year to get to a bowl.
And then the other one for me is Jalen Daniels, who's had a good year, but, I mean, when you look at some of these games down the stretch, he's just not playing well enough. Taylor, just curious for your thoughts. Kind of, I think Avery and Jalen Daniels in similar boats in that regard.
Yeah, I would say the volatility, where Avery Johnson, I would say, was more a handful of plays a game that just needed to be made, but not nearly as many of the critical errors. That's where I do think you've seen Jalen Daniels have the volatility in his game is is the swings between when he's playing at a really high level versus
not.
Boy, we may need to make a change at quarterback, and that happens within games. I mean, there are some where you go from, man, he looks like one of the top quarterbacks in the league, to do we need to get it to Cole Ballard in the second quarter? And I think that if you think back to when he came on the scene and Jalen Daniels was just unbelievable in 2022, I think that piece of his game sort of got found out. And what made them so good was when they were really able to run the football and then have sort of these zone read option looks off of it where you've got guys running wide open. I think defenses, you have less and less of that's become available. And I think Jalen Daniels and the expectations that Kansas had coming into this season, I think he's tried to force it. It puts a lot of throws in danger. And again, I think when I think back to this season for Daniels, volatility will be the kind of first word that I would go to for him.
Well said. Very much agree with you there. Taylor McHarger, our Monday morning quarterback. Taylor, always a pleasure to be joined by you and excited to have you out with us at Big 12 Championship Saturday.
Yeah, looking forward to that, man. You guys are going to have to show me the ropes. I'm fired up to be with you guys in person up in Arlington in a couple weeks.
Yeah, going to be great, and it's been fun to be talking each and every week with Taylor McHarger, Monday morning quarterback, who'll be with us at Big 12, the Big 12 Championship game, as we're going to come to you live pregame from Arlington AT&T Stadium before the Big 12 Championship. All right, with James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. And I guess we'll hear why James Westling was nearly arrested this weekend. That's next. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. on this Thanksgiving week. It's great to have you with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12 Conference. Tune in and Big 12 Studios. Make sure to download the TuneIn app and search big12studios.com to find wherever you can find us. With James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. You know, James, it's funny because we've started to see so many advertisements, especially watching football games with my kids. They're talking about Black Friday, and so my kids are wondering what Black Friday is. And I was like, well, it used to be a thing, and it feels less and less like a thing because it feels like now every day is Black Friday. You know, like I can't tell you how many quote-unquote Black Friday sales I see across the year, but more specifically, the ones that occur before Black Friday have really made Black Friday kind of a non-day. I don't know. I feel like it used to be. There was a very brief window in there where like you could get exclusive deals on the Friday after Thanksgiving. But that was it. Like now, multiple years later, and it's like every day is a new Black Friday sale.
Which personally I'm very okay with. I'm here for that. I like that Black Friday starts earlier, but I mean, you're the ultimate shopper. I need you as a shopping guide.
Thank you.
So you can find Black Friday prices any month, any day, 365.
That's right.
Ari, you are the guy.
That's right. Black Friday is every day. I think we all know that. And so kind of like the word literally, which literally now means nothing because literally means by the dictionary definition, both being literal and figurative, which means literally means nothing because it means both itself and its opposite at the exact same time. Black Friday is kind of in the same boat.
Which is all very confusing to me, but yes.
Well, think about it. If literally means literal, but it also now, according to the dictionary, means figurative, it means both itself and its opposite at the same time, which means literally means nothing.
It's a simulation. That's what I say to that.
Thank you. You were almost arrested over the weekend. So what were you doing there, James? And what are you now outing yourself for doing?
So it's actually just really embarrassing, and there's quite a bit to unpack. I think you'll have some questions. Thanksgiving week it's always a little bit chaotic in terms of schedules, and it's crossover season with football and basketball, and when are we all getting together and where and how, and sometimes it just doesn't happen. But this year during my journey to the state of Kansas, so yesterday at 4:43 in the afternoon, I got pulled over on I-135. And I thought, well, that's weird. I don't think I was speeding. I'm not swerving. I'm not doing anything dumb on the road. Well, turns out, Ari, did you know that each state has a window tint requirement?
Okay.
And I got pulled over yesterday. I got pulled over because the officer, as I was driving through southern Kansas, felt that my windows might be too tinted. So I got pulled over. He asked me to roll down my window.
Which, by the way, you still have Kansas license plates, yes?
Correct. I'm in the process of getting all of that moved over.
So you purchased the car in Kansas, you have Kansas license plates, and yet despite that, the Kansas Police Department or State Police of Kansas thought your windows might be a little bit too tinted.
So actually, I bought the car in Arkansas.
Oh. Arkansas, not exactly Kansas in terms of the same window tinting rules.
You got it. So they have he comes over with this little clip, and the officer clips my window, and he says, your window tint is registering at an 18, which means it's allowing 18% of sunlight through your window. The Kansas state law is that it has to require 35%. In the state of Texas, where we live now, it requires 25%. The car had factory tint, is what I said. He said, did it have this, on it when you bought it? I said, yes. So anyways, I know I'm getting dinged for that. And I'm thinking, okay, a tint ticket. That's kind of annoying, but whatever. Everything's fine. We'll get back on our way. Well, while he's running my license, he gets out of his patrol car again, and he walks to the back of my vehicle.
Oh, no.
And I've got my window down, and he says, sir, step out of the vehicle. At this point, just a wave of panic overwhelms my body. And he's holding something in his hands. I thought I was about to be handcuffed on the side of the road in Kansas.
for having too tinted of windows.
Too tinted of windows. But then the real bombshell. So I walk to the back of the vehicle, hands out. Want to make sure he can see these puppies.
Yeah,
all
that's
10
right.
fingers.
You've seen enough Law and Order SVU. You know what's going on.
I know what's going on. So I walk to the back of the vehicle, and he's holding my driver's license. And he tells me, "Sir, are you aware that your license is suspended?" And that it has been suspended since March.
Whoa.
So I've
Sir,
been driving.
were you aware that your license has been suspended since March?
The answer is no. I was not aware. So I still have a Kansas ID.
Wait,
and
why was
driver's?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. My driver's license has been suspended, and I've been driving illegally for almost 9 full months.
Wow.
So he tracks that it goes back to November of 2024. I got pulled over in the state of Kansas.
So a year ago.
Oh, yes. A full year ago.
You got a speeding ticket in Kansas.
So I didn't get a speeding ticket. I got pulled over for speeding.
Oh, I thought you got a
but
ticket.
I got a citation for an unpaid previous speeding ticket that I thought I had paid in the state of Oklahoma. So I called right away and I paid the Oklahoma ticket, but I never paid the Kansas ticket for not paying the Oklahoma ticket. And they suspended my license.
Wait, so you have to, what?
Yeah.
How do states get to do that?
It's a mess.
Like,
Dude,
I
it
didn't
is a
speed
mess.
in your state, nor was I pulled over in your state for speeding. How are you now profiting from this? How did you jump into this little state thing?
So it gets worse. So I tell the cop, he says, "Is this your current address?" I said, "No." I said, I've moved to Dallas. We're up here for Thanksgiving.
Very sketchy here, James. I'm not going to lie. For
said
somebody that is not sketchy at all, you're coming off to this police officer is extremely sketchy. Like tinted windows, unpaid parking tickets. He lives in Texas. He's got Kansas plates. What's the deal with this guy?
1,000%. Like the car seats, it's all yeah, car seats, snack bags in the back. So anyway, I get out and he tells me my license is suspended. He says because I don't live and I don't have a residential address in the state of Kansas and it's no longer valid, he can't give me my license back. He has to keep my license. So here I am, just moseying all about without any form of identification.
Oh, no.
I have nothing.
Oh, no. James.
Simply a man in a car on the street.
Wait.
Just assuming what laws do and don't apply to me.
Wait, so, okay, I love that you're now openly admitting on the radio that you are now driving without a license. That's great to know.
I didn't drive. My wife drove the rest of the trip. And my question is, what time are you picking up for the next show in Dallas? What time are you coming to get me? I'll be ready at 6.
No, I mean, I'd love to help you out as much as I possibly can, but yeah, we'll have to figure out a good carpooling situation for you. Wow. So, and this goes back to a story you told about going to the DMV a few weeks ago, where they would not give you a new Texas license unless you had Texas plates. So you first had to get Texas plates. Now, unfortunately, my friend, I think you're going to have to take the driver's test again.
I think you're right.
Oh,
that was my main takeaway.
Oh, no.
So first I have to get my car re-tinted, have to get the windows re-tinted. Then I have to take it to get it inspected. And then I'll have to take it to get the Texas plates and get it registered. Then I'll have to go to the DMV and apply for my driver's license /ID with 8,000 documents that are all notarized, and then take a driver's test. And then probably 6 months from now, I'll have a valid driver's license.
So I think what you need to do, James, is sell your car and buy one in the great state of Texas. I think that will take care of your license plate fiasco, but you're still going to probably have to go to the DMV and get a new driver's license and take the driver's test. I think that you still will have to do.
So my wife said the same thing, and here's what I say. It's either buy a new car or just re-tint the windows. Everything else I still have to do.
No, but I think if you bought a new car in Texas, you get the license plate, so you don't have to deal with all that stuff about getting it transferred over.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That would save me one step. it would save me one step and add hundreds of dollars to my monthly payment. It's not worth it.
Yeah, totally. Here I am like, that's what I would do. And you're totally right. It's like, no, that's not really the right move here. Like, that's exactly what I would do just to save that one step. But you're right. It would end up costing me hundreds more of dollars in my monthly car payments.
And it would probably take just as long, if not longer, to go buy a new vehicle and go through all the paperwork and the process and the insurance and say no to the warranty, all the things.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah,
well.
it's been a trip, man. It's been a trip. Thought I was going to jail. I'm fine. Just ID-less. Have no ID.
Step out of your vehicle. Sir, with the tinted windows, the Kansas plates, you live in Texas, you've got a suspended Kansas license.
Just trying to get through each and every day in survival mode. And this guy says, you know what? Those tinted windows look a little too dark.
I can't wait for him to be watching a college basketball game and see you on the call and be like, that's the guy! That's the criminal! There he is!
Actually, so the cop was super helpful because I didn't remember when I'd been pulled over. I haven't been pulled over in a year. And he took the time after he let us take off. My wife is now driving. He's got my ID. He called me. We were like 10 minutes down the road, and he called me, and he tracked all this down for me. Knew exactly what county it happened in, had the report, knew who pulled me over, told me exactly what to do, and he didn't have to do any of that. So he's the real MVP.
Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio. Thank you to Will Connerly for filling in as our producer today. Thanks to Anthony Smith from Raycom for producing each and every day. Thanks to James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. We're back tomorrow on this Thanksgiving week. But for now, we're out. Peace.
Edwards